Hello everyone, I'm Gloria Kevlicute. Welcome to the 2023 ICSA College Sailing Women's National Championship. I'm joined here with Spencer Kriegstein from Georgetown. We've been seeing pristine conditions and we're very excited to be here.
Yes, we are. It's really an honor to be here at Kings Point for the National Championship. Welcome everybody.
Awesome. So what we want to start out is talking about the semifinals. As you all know, today's the first day of the finals. The two semifinal days are essentially an opportunity for 36 teams to come together and fight for the chance to be a part of the final championship. So we saw pristine conditions the past 2 days. You know, top 9 teams from the Eastern and the Western semifinals were able to advance. And, you know, conditions have been beautiful.
It's been great. I mean, the weather today is perfect for racing, and the last 2 days we've seen typical sailing regatta conditions, some breeze and some postponement due to lack of breeze. But these sailors, they expect that, they know that's coming, and they handle it well.
Right, that's the name of the game. Awesome. And welcome to the pregame show, everyone. Pre-race show, we're going to cover a little bit of what you guys may have missed in the semifinals. You know, it was really tight racing on that final day. You know, just talking about the venue a little bit more, we're so lucky to be here. It's a great area for spectators, it's a great area for the sailors, the coaches, and so on. We have a stunning view of the city, of the water. We're sitting right here in the booth right now, and it feels like the boats are just feet away from us. So, you know, can't complain. The weather has been beautiful as well. And so, Spencer, what do you think about that?
Well, you know, Gloria, I was just saying, I think Kings Point is one of really our premier venues in our sport, and that's why we're so lucky to be here. The venue features really two main different wind directions on a regular basis. You have a northwest gradient breeze, and sometimes you get a southerly sea breeze, thermal breeze, and the sailors have raced in both of these wind directions over the last 2 days. And the other main feature of this venue is, of course, the current. The current is very strong. It ebbs and flows from Long Island Sound, where we're racing, into and out of the East River near Manhattan, which we can see the beautiful skyline of just to our west. So the sailors really need to figure out how to balance both the current and the different wind directions and strengths that they've been seeing, and that poses a great challenge and one that really measures who's going to be the national champion.
You couldn't be more right. And Spencer, you are from New York as well, so you've got a good idea of the way the water works, the way the wind works here. So it's great to have you on board, where you give us a little bit of that local knowledge.
Happy to do so.
Awesome. So, you know, taking a look at the women's Western semifinals and just the Eastern as well. In the Western semifinals, we had really great stack of teams. We had Stanford, Bowdoin, MIT, all placing top 3 in the Westerns. Then we had UPenn, BC, Dartmouth, Navy, St. Mary's, and USF all qualified. Those were our top 9 teams. It was a little hard seeing some teams have to go home. That's always going to be something that we battle with in terms of the semifinals. But here you guys can even see how beautiful the venue has been at KP. So, you know, we've got the Yoakum Sailing Center, which is incredible. We've got this amazing pool that just opened up this weekend. You'll see that we have food trucks and there's outdoor activities. So, you know, when sailors were in postponement, you were seeing people play spike ball and cornhole and everything. So KP has done a tremendous job setting up this venue to quite possibly make it one of the best nationals we've seen. Quite honestly, it's incredible viewing areas, and everybody's been so kind and welcoming, and you know, the weather has been beautiful. What do you think about the docks, the banners, the spectator benches that you've seen, Spencer?
It all adds so much to the experience. At the end of the day, this is a national championship, and the sailors are here to compete, but they also want to enjoy themselves, and that's part of it. And We are trying to make sailing more of a spectator sport, and Kings Point has just done a tremendous job in helping our effort out in doing that and setting up such a spectator experience. You guys can see the tents that are set up here. The sailors are taking shelter in these tents here and enjoying the racing, those that are the alternates. That's all part of this sport that we all enjoy so much.
Right, right. And we also have joining us Sophia Reinecke. She had just graduated from BC. She was actually last year's Women's National Champion, Women's College Sailor of the Year. Sophia, would you like to tell us a little bit about this venue, what it's like being back, and how pumped are you to be here?
Hey everyone, yeah, it's great to be here. It's great to be back and see all of the girls competing at the top level. Like, this is it. This is the pinnacle event. Yeah, great to be back. As far as this venue goes, I've actually never sailed here ever. It's a first time for me. But from what I'm seeing and from what I asked a few locals, like Spencer was talking about, it's a really big current venue. I think we saw that this morning. It was pretty windy to start the day. Then started to get a little bit warmer. The breeze died off just a bit. It's probably like 5 to 10-ish right now. But this morning with the current, we had like a low tide maybe around 10:30, and the current would seem to be sweeping a lot of the girls over the ley line. And now we are headed towards a high tide at around like 4:30, and it's a bit different. So we'll see. I mean, it's never really over until it's over. We've seen some good teams get some good races. Good teams also get, not the best races, but it's always up and down, and it's nationals, so it's to be expected, Just got to keep your head in it the whole time. And yeah, starting race 7 soon, I believe, for A Division, and we'll see how it goes.
Incredibly well said, Sophia. Thank you so much. Yeah, so, it was... Thank you. Yeah, so, taking a look at the Eastern semifinals as well, the top 9 teams that advanced to the finals, in first, second, and third, we had Yale University, U.S. Coast Guard, Charleston, and then some of the other teams that advanced that finished top 9 were Cornell, Tulane, Georgetown, there you go, Spencer, Harvard, Brown, and Tufts. So, it's funny because every single year you kind of see something different, right? You see a lot of teams up and coming. You see some teams having rebuild years. You see some teams that are going from varsity to club or club to varsity. And so that makes all the difference, especially coming to the semifinals. These are such impactful events for schools. And so top 9 advanced. Day 2 was stellar. Eastern semifinals, I would say those guys were pretty locked in, right? So we were taking a big look over at the Western semifinals, day 2, yesterday. So we had a very close in points between St. Mary's College of Maryland, happens to be my alma mater, University of South Florida, pardon me, the Bulls, and Northeastern University Huskies. So there was about 10-point difference between 8th, 9th, and 10th going into that final race. Am I right, Spencer?
That's correct. And as you guys see some of the footage from our last couple of days going over your screen, it's important to understand that those semifinals, there's no margin for error, is there?
No, absolutely not. It's tough because, going into that final race, the pressure is on those teams, right? All it takes is you being over the line, you finish 18th, and that's the difference between you staying or you going home, and your event's over. So, pressure is on, and it's always interesting to kind of get to know the sailors a little bit more and see what their techniques are going into a race like that or a set like that. I will say USF did a phenomenal job in that last race.
Yes, they did.
Right.
They really did. And that's part of it. It's, can you come up clutch when it matters?
Right.
And it's not an easy thing to do, but it's what everybody here lives for and dreams of doing every day they get on the water. So It's an exhilarating moment for teams that are able to do it.
Right. I mean, sailing is such a mental and physical sport. So it's very physically demanding in terms of your energy throughout the day. we're talking, these are long, long days, right? So some women sailors that are out here right now, they've been sailing since day one of the semifinals, and they're probably going to be here all the way through to the open finals. So some of these women are going to be sailing for 11 straight days. They're all here at the venue around 8 o'clock. And so, first day of the semifinals, last race, they were racing till 6:30.
That's unbelievable, and it's necessary because they have to race 2 races on and 2 races off because we have 36 teams, and
Right.
that's why you see a semifinals with only 8 races. And like we're saying, any errors that are made can be detrimental.
Right. I absolutely want to make emphasis on the Western semifinals. The USF Bulls had clinched that 9th spot and they didn't even finish 5th in that last race or anything. They went out there and they won that last race, which absolutely pushed them into that 9th place. They're here, and now, the excitement they must have felt as they get off the water and they know that they get to stick around for 2 more days. And, I always have so much respect for those Southern teams as well. So you were Mesa, I was also Mesa, but these Southern teams, they're coming up all the way down from Florida. Now, granted, we've had pretty good weather, but, when the breeze comes on, it starts getting a little chilly. So I'm always astounded that they sail so well in the northern area.
It's definitely a test. We're all jealous of them getting to sail all year long and wearing shorts and all this throughout our winter months. But a lot of these big regattas tend to be up in our waters and put everyone in the south to the test. So welcome to the show, I guess.
Right. So we're taking a look at some footage from that very final race from yesterday's semifinals where the USF Bulls had clinched the win. So we were talking a lot of that pressure that sailors feel going into, final races, knowing that this is it. It's take it or leave it. Sophia, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on pressure as a sailor, right? So you went on to win the nationals last year with your team. So you felt the pressure going into that final set, final race. Your teammates did. What helps as a sailor going into those high stakes races? What do you say to your teammates? What do you do? What are some of the techniques? Fill us in. Give us the background information we want to know about every. If we can question a college sailor of the year, we're gonna pick your brain. That's for sure. So fill us in, Sophia.
Great questions. Honestly, when it's high stakes, I feel as though if you've practiced how you race the majority of the year, it's kind of just going through the motions at that point. You should have some goals that you're working on, and for me, goals were always a really big part of competition. I found if I was looking at my opponents, looking at the pennies, like the teams, if I saw the sail numbers, I wasn't really in a good spot. But if I had specific goals to focus on for each event, then my head was more clear. I knew what I needed to work on, and then all of that outside noise really didn't matter at the end of the day. I know last year, I actually sailed with Sarah Schumann for the first time ever. She's here now, another BC Eagle. And the first day Sarah and I had sailed together was actually probably the day before nationals, or that last practice before nationals. And, usually sailing with someone new would put a dent in somebody's mental game kind of program. But I think at that point I had some stuff that I needed to work on, and I think it was tax and starting for last year's nationals. And it didn't matter to me, if it was somebody new or someone that I had reps with. It was just going out and working on what needed to be worked on and staying disciplined. And Sarah, credit to her, she was a freshman at the time, dealing with me, a senior, 5th-year senior stress case. And she helped me stay focused majority of the event, and we just kept nailing it. And as a teammate, whether you're driving, you're crewing, or you're on the dock, your job is to just make the person next to you feel at their best 100% of the time. And whether, again, I was on the water or not, I think that's what you got to focus on when it comes time for nationals. It doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, it's not you that's winning, or it's not you that's losing. It's your team. And not just the team that's here, it's the team that stayed home, the team that didn't make the nationals roster, the incoming freshmen, you know, they're eager to see you. You've already made an impression on them. That's why they're coming, and they want to be part of something bigger. So again, I think nationals is just taking out the noise, enjoying it, going through the motions, and having some goals. That would be my perspective on the college nationals.
Incredible, Sophia. Thank you so much for that. It's great getting some insight on that, and we'll be seeing a lot of those sailors doing the same thing throughout these next 2 days. Folks, hold on to your seats. We're just going to take a really short break.
Zim and West Coast Sailing are proud to support ICSA with the College Sailing Give Back program. When college programs make purchases through their Zim and West Coast Sailing team accounts, they not only get great equipment, great service, and great discounts, but also 5% of their purchase is donated back to ICSA. With the Zim and West Coast Sailing College Give Back program, your general fleet maintenance and sail purchases help with general maintenance of ICSA and provides direct support to the organization that makes it all happen and increases access to the water for all.
Hello, folks. So really quickly, at the end of yesterday's semifinals, after USF came back to shore, it was incredible watching the team celebrate as they knew that they were moving on to the finals. I had a chance to talk to the teams, talk to USF and Yale, and we did a great interview with the two teams just to talk about Yale winning their semifinals, what are they going to do moving forward, and talking about USF's great clinch to the finals. Ladies, what worked for you guys today to finally cinch that final win?
Okay, so we primarily just focused on getting to know the race course area. We did have 2 different breezes across these 2 days, so just learning more about the environment and just sailing consistently, trusting our boat speed, and learning a little bit more about the boats and the equipment.
Absolutely, and for those of you that don't know the format, there's 2 days of semifinals and then you move on to 2 days of the finals. So, anything can happen in the finals, right? Top 9 teams advance. What's your team's mentality and mindset going into the days of finals?
I think we've just put in a lot of reps over the time, so we are just feeling pretty confident in our boat handling and working together as a team. So just coming out and trying to do what we do in practice is what we try to do.
How are we all feeling?
Feeling great.
Yeah, let's go. All right.
Thank you.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
All right, folks. So here we are. We're going to bring you on live coverage. So we have a beautiful view of the water right now. We started off the day with quite a bit of breeze. We saw a lot of heavy crews going in, right, which I think is awesome when we have a heavier day. The heavy crews get to go in. You'll see some that are seniors, and so I think having that wide range of weather conditions really allows for every single player to have their chance on the water, right, Spencer?
I think a lot of teams expected that, Gloria, coming up here. They knew they were going to see a range of conditions, and we saw this stronger northeast breeze this morning. We can also see a strong southerly breeze at times. Haven't seen that yet in these finals. This northerly breeze still prevailing. But as you say, just getting the different heavy air combos and different combos in there creates another challenge for these teams and these coaches to try to figure out who to best put out there to get their results that they're looking for. And that was they were put to the test doing that straight away this morning.
Right. And the interesting thing is you'll hear a lot of teams be like, oh, our team is super strong in light air. Oh, our team is really strong in heavy breeze, right? And the balance is having a team that can do all the above. And now, granted, that's much harder to do than, than me just saying it. It's like, oh, well, why not just do it all, right? So just be good at everything. So that's really hard to do. The physicality it requires to be a strong sailor in heavy breeze and light air breeze is a huge difference, right? And so it's really hard to find the sweet spot of mental game, physical game, and just having a good pairing as well. Because I don't know, maybe it's just me, but light air can be really, really frustrating at times.
Absolutely. And we're seeing that already today, ladies and gentlemen, just to catch you up on what we've been seeing recently. Since that big breeze came in this morning, it's gotten very variable, and we're seeing extreme wind shifts left and right. Just like you're saying, it creates frustration. That's part of our sport, though, and these sailors understand that. But can you prevent it from getting to your head is another question, and we're going to start to see if that becomes a factor as we move through the racing.
Precisely. You'll see, the tough thing is it's really about who can be consistent, right? But that's easier said than done, once again. So the thing is in the light stuff, it's going to be just almost just as physical as in the heavier stuff, because you really want to roll the boat. And the thing is these fleets are so tight. I mean, we're talking there is no room for error in the finals, right? So you might have gotten away with a bad tack in the semis and so on, but in the finals, a bad tack can cost you 4 or 5 boats, right? So you'll see how as the boats are getting around the course, it is neck and neck and neck and neck and neck, right? It is like tight racing. The boats are going to be one after another, and you really don't want to have bad tack.
You can't afford anything that's a mistake, because you'll be sent to the back of the fleet right away. Like you're saying, we're seeing these boats in the finals all getting to the weather mark within 30 seconds of each other. They're back to back to back. And so if you're coming in there even just a little bit late, just a little bit off pace, you're going to have to duck that whole line. You could think you're in third, second place. All of a sudden you're in 10th, 11th place. And if you commit a foul, hello, 18th place.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality of this and why it's so difficult. People sometimes say, well, college sailing doesn't have a spinnaker, doesn't have trapeze, etc., etc. The course is short, whatever they might say. But in reality, this is some of the most difficult strategic racing that you can find, in my opinion, in the world.
Definitely. So, and keep in mind that today they've completed 6 races. So they're already starting to get pretty exhausted, right? The races were all in pretty heavy breeze. And so now they have the most amount of races we can do in one day of finals at College Sailing Nationals is 10 races per division. So imagine you're coming into the day, it's an early day, there's no cutoff time today, right? So these sailors are coming in thinking and knowing that they're possibly going to be racing all day long through all kinds of conditions. So it's definitely all about drinking water, keeping that head up. You might have a bad race. That's okay. Brush it off, right? So we've got about 10 races in us for today. I think that we're going to get through all of them. What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you what, our PRO is definitely trying to do that. They're having a little bit of trouble right now just trying to set this course, because we have, from our vantage point, we can see quite a bit of increase in wind to the north of our course, to the northwest of our course, and that continues to ripple down into us and shift the wind to the left. They have to readjust the course, or the start isn't square anymore, so it's becoming a challenge. So as we talk about these racers needing to keep their patience and their cool, the race officer has to do that as well, because sometimes a race officer can get very frustrated and freak out and call the day off. Nobody wants to see that. They need to keep their cool. Everyone needs to understand the race committee's trying their best as well. And they want to get fair racing in, and that's how it should be.
That's for sure. And, we haven't seen too many general recalls either. So, there was a race where, our PRO they're being tough. They're being tough, and that's okay. We're happy to get these races going, right? So the PRO has called barely any generals. They've been calling boats, all the boats over. If it's 10 boats, they're calling all 10 boats. They're not going to call it back. So that just is a testament to how hard our race committee has been doing. Or has been working, rather. So Spencer, tell me a little bit. So right now, it's there's a little bit of a delay. We haven't seen a start just yet. They just got off of shore. They just finished rotating. If you're a sailor, you're sailing out there, right? And this is going to be you in a few days as well when you're sailing. So, when there's a delay on the water like this, what are you doing as a sailor?
Well, Gloria, I think it starts with a point you brought up earlier, and that's you need to keep your energy levels at a constant. It's very easy to sort of eat breakfast and then have a big dive, eat something for lunch, then you get tired, whatever. You can't afford that. You have to keep your energy levels at a constant. This goes back to drinking enough water and eating the right foods and enough food. And at the same time, when you're out on the water and there's a delay like this, you need to do the same thing with your mental state. You need to keep your mental state involved, but not overly taxed. If you're constantly focused and worried about the next start and every little detail when you're in a delay, you're going to burn yourself out. But the same goes for if you just sit around and put your feet up on the centerboard trunk and sit down in the bottom of the boat, you're going to be lost, checked out. You might as well sail in. So what I'd recommend doing is you go out there, you focus for about 5 minutes, do a couple of tacks, sail upwind, look around, sail downwind, really focus. Then give yourselves 5-10 minutes of a rest and continue that process until you see racing resume.
Right. So, absolutely, you could not be more right about that. So it's all about just stability, right? So whether it's with your mental game, energy, absolutely. What were some of your favorite ways to keep yourself level? What are some of your current favorite ways to keep yourself level at a regatta?
One of the things that I think about in a sport like sailing, there are so many variables. Literally thousands of them. We couldn't sit here and name them. We could sit here and name them all day. There's too much to think about. You need to eliminate as many of those thoughts as possible. So you shouldn't have to think about what you're going to eat, where you're going to sleep, whatever. Put all that aside, check all those boxes, and just go out and just think about the biggest pieces of the equation at the time. So right here, you look out, you see the conditions, you say, I know it's going to be shifty, I know there's going to be current, and wind is going to be puffy. Focus on those three things. Start from there.
Right.
Figure out where to pinpoint your focus to give your brain the best chance to succeed.
1,000%. I think, something that it's so easy to do is just get out there and kind of get your headspace out in the wrong place, and kind of just sit around a little bit, not think about it. But, you'll see some of the top players, they'll be out there. They've got a little bit of a break. They'll be tacking. They'll be doing practice tacks. They're going to be doing practice jibes, right? They're staying in that mental focus. They're keeping themselves activated and so on, and they'll keep sailing. They'll go upwind with a teammate, right? I'll be honest, if I was out there, I'd want to grab my teammate while I have them out there, or grab a competitor that you may know, your friend, right? Go out there, speed test, stay in the zone. It's so easy to leave the zone, but the best sailors, you'll see them. They'll be out there and they'll be practice tacking, practice jibing, adjusting their controls. Heck, maybe take off some jib tension, maybe put some on. I'm seeing some puffs coming across water. Looks like the breeze is kind of starting to fill in again.
That's right. It is coming up again, and I'll tell you one thing. It's often the case that these sailors, they really want to race. They really want to compete. That's what they're here to do. They're amped up. It's easy to get frustrated when there's a big delay. Why aren't we racing? What's going on? But that's not helpful. That's wasted energy. That's wasted thought process, and it builds up this frustration inside you. It's not healthy. It doesn't make the boat go faster. We often talk about sailors getting very clenched up. You can think about that thought of your hand really tight on the tiller and your hand really tight on the main sheet, your bot. That's not productive. It's not going to make the boat go faster. So these sailors, they need to take a deep breath. That's, to answer your question, that's one of my favorite things. Just take a long, deep breath, maybe a couple of them.
Right.
It really settles you down and helps for success.
Right. I was actually speaking to an alumni recently, Tim Herzog. He's a sports psychologist. You'll see some features of him later on. Tim was telling me this really, really great breathing technique. So you breathe in for 4 seconds, and you hold your breath, and you breathe out for 6. So it's 10-second breath intervals. Breathe in for 4, breathe out for 6. And the way to do it is not to puff your chest up and down and make big movements. It's all about a slow, and you can hold on to your chest. And if you just hold your hands there, you don't want your hands moving with that breath in. So it's in with your nose, out with your mouth. 4, 6, 4, 6. And a big thing about that is that actually that taking those deep breaths and focused breaths, they actually can bring down your anxiety baseline much lower. So you have a smaller anxiety baseline, and essentially what that does is, when you're in a high stakes moment, then you start out a little bit lower, so that way when the peak is peaking, it's not as bad. And folks,
you hear this here?
That's good noise. That's good noise. Sounds like the starting horns are going off. For those of you that may not be sailors and are watching the broadcast, do we want to give them a little bit of insight on what a start looks like?
Sure. Yes. How we do it in college sailing is we use what we call a 3-minute dinghy start. So we blow 3 long horns to signal 3 minutes, followed by 2 long horns. We also signal a minute 30, 1, and then count down the last basically 30-second intervals. Sailors will usually carry a watch anyway,
right,
because they like to have an exact time. Say there's 28 seconds to go. They want to know that in the instant. But it is more of a helpful starting signal. It's shorter than the typical 5-minute start, and it's also a little bit easier on the race committee. They don't need to deal with all these flag signals, visual signals, etc. So we just have a 3-minute sound signal. The course is set, and we're ready for race 7 Alpha. Is that correct?
7 Alpha. That is correct. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about these A division sailors that we're seeing here, right? So let's go ahead, and we've got really, really talented sailors in A division.
We do, and A division tends to be some of the more senior sailors. They may have been here 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4 times before. Well, really 3, this being their 4th time if they've sailed every year since their freshman year. Usually the Women's College Sailor of the Year is going to be amongst one of these sailors here in A division. And it's very, very, very competitive division. Like we're saying, there's no margin for error. Right. One of the things about some of these teams is the recent team racing national championship was held in Stanford, and a lot of these schools did compete there. I'm sure we'll talk about that more as we go through.
Right, and so, taking a look, the fascinating thing about also having semifinals is that it doesn't matter where you really finish in the semifinals so long as you're top 9 and you qualify for the finals, right? So the conditions change, right? Like today's breeze is not going to be the same as yesterday's breeze and so on. Like no conditions are ever going to be the same in sailing. So the biggest goal in the semifinals is top 9. Let's qualify for the finals. But the finals is anybody's game, right? You can win the semifinals and come in 18th in the finals. Right.
That's
so
correct.
that's a huge part of it is actually really hammering down in the finals. So it's like it's really anybody's game. Like I said, you can be the biggest comeback team ever in the finals. It's anybody's game. But even then we'll still see some of those really talented sailors still coming to the very top in the finals.
That's correct. We just had a start here. We just had a
Nice.
start for A division, and it's a tack off the line start, which means big left shift.
Right.
Port tack is the long tack to the first mark, so all the boats start on starboard just to keep right of way according to the rules. Immediately tack to port. That's what we've just seen here. The boats at the pin end of the line, far away from the committee boat, tend to be favored in this situation.
Right, and you see that we've got a few second lane starts, or if you just tack off just a little bit too late, that's tough. That's tough because you know what? You don't want to be on the knock tack. You want to tack, and you want to be on the same tack as everybody else. And the thing is if you're second lane, you now have the whole fleet sitting on you.
That's correct, and you have no choice but to flop over, and you can see everyone's done that. It looks like Boat 5, Boat 4, and Boat 12 off to a really really good start here, being able to accomplish that tack at their own will.
Right, and it looks like we have the Harvard Crimsons in boat 5 for this. So let's go ahead and take a look. We've got, for the Harvard Crimsons in A division, we have Sarah Byrne, class of 24. Sarah's had a really, really great season so far, and I believe it's her and her sister that both go to Harvard, and I believe their oldest sister also was a Dartmouth alumni.
That's correct.
And she was, I believe, an All-American, multiple All-American, so very talented family. It's got to be pretty cool, you know, knowing that all your kids are superstar sailors. But wow, 5 has quite a lead in this race right now.
You know, Sarah's been here before, Gloria. She's done this type of race, and this is a specific type of race and specific type of strategy that it requires to do well in a race like this, where it's a tack right off the line. It's really just about having seen that scenario before, knowing that's what's going to happen,
right,
and executing. Three big things. That's what someone like Sarah Byrne has been able to do here in boat 5 and race up the track quickly.
Execution's everything, right? Because you can know what you need to do, but it's a whole different thing to actually do it. And so something incredible is we have Sophia out to give us a little bit more intel on the conditions out on the water. So Sophia, tell us what you're seeing out there.
Hey, so the race 7A just started a few minutes back, and it seemed to me like a lot of the girls tried to port tack approach from the pin. And like you guys were seeing from the booth, the pin was pretty favored, pretty high pin, and a lot of the girls didn't make it. Had to either reverse rabbit, duck the fleet, or they get kind of caught up at the pin. Boats a few boat lengths down actually paid off because they were able to escape clean, like y'all were talking about, get on that first shift and really take it up the course. And I saw boat 5, I believe, as you were saying, was the Harvard Crimson. They clean start, tacked, and seemed like they were going full speed. And B divisions behind us in the FJ is about to start again. Not sure if there's going to be any course changes from the pin, but the breeze is kind of up, but it's also pretty deceiving. Some of the girls still sitting on the rail, some crews in the boat. So it's up and down, it's shifty. You just got to keep your head out of the boat, and that's it.
Thank you for that, Sophia. That is incredible that we have you out on the water and really getting a first-hand view of what's going on out there, because even sometimes, you know, depth perception will get the best of you, that's for sure. So sometimes, you know, something going on the water is so much more clear from out there than it is to us.
This is what we call a drag race here.
Yeah.
The boats come off the line, tack, and have not made another tack since then, and the fastest boat's going to win. The fastest boat with clear air is going to be first at the mark, and you can see this breezes continue just to shift left and favor the boats that even waited a little bit longer to tack. Breezes come up, which goes back to what we talked about in the open, which is who do you put out there in terms of personnel for weight considerations, and that's what we're seeing right now. All those factors playing into who's going to arrive at the weather mark first, which sets you up to win the race.
Positively. Yeah, and so looking at A division, I mean, the points are tight. Now, granted, we're only on race 7. We've got a whole lot more racing to go. But just to kind of give you guys an idea of how tight the racing is out on the water, we're talking like 2.1 point differences. We're talking, it's only an 8-point difference from first in A division to 6th in A division. So, you know, leading A division right now, we have Stanford University's Michelle Larkamp, you know, followed by Yale's Carmen Coles, and then we've got Bridget Green from Cornell, Emily Bornarth from Coast Guard, and Maddie Hawkins from Dartmouth, as well as Bowdoin College's Elizabeth Kaplan. So she's in 6th, and, you know, all it takes is for those top 5 players to maybe all get stuck in the back or something, have a bad race, and, you know, if Bowdoin were to keep getting super low number scores, they could just launch themselves to the top of A division.
Yeah, and I have to acknowledge here, Piper Holtis, Georgetown, is leading this race here. Boat 10 coming around the weather mark in first. She's had a great season in Mesa Conference, and this is really, I think, is going to help her confidence here in the finals as she starts to settle in Division A. Boat 11 in second there is Coast Guard, and then followed by Harvard was third. They've drive down to a wing a little bit lower. So it's still a very close race, but Boat 10, Georgetown, really well executed first upwind leg.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you must be stoked to see, a Hoya up there right now, and she's not winning by a little. She's winning by a good distance right now. So, she must have been one of those boats that kind of made it out from the pin and just sent it fast all the way to that ley line.
If you have clear air in conditions like that in a drag race, you're going to be in really good shape, and you're going to be looking at a first place at the weather mark. Your eyes get a little wide, you start to feel excited, and down you go. But it's four-legged race.
Right.
You can't let it get the best of you. Got to keep the pedal to the metal.
Totally. Pedal to the metal is the best way to say it. Yeah, you just want to keep that fleet under your boom, right? So keep your eyes on them, and it's going to split up. You gotta pick a side, right? Maybe sometimes. I'm going to heavy emphasis on the sometimes. The middle may work, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we can sit here and talk about it and break it down all day, but the fact of the matter is, like you're saying, it's still so variable out there.
Right.
If I was racing, I wouldn't feel so comfortable in any position out there. Anything could change at any time.
That's very true. Hang on, folks. We're just going to take a very quick break. And just perfect timing, folks. We can hear the horns trying to go off for B Division's race. It looks like Georgetown has been able to hold the lead. I'll be honest, winning a race at Nationals, especially even by that lead, it's still nerve-wracking, You keep, especially on the downwind, you keep looking back. You're like, am I closing the gap? Like, is the gap being closed? Am I building a gap? What's going on? And, you got to worry about, you got the whole fleet behind you, right? And you're hoping you've got good air, and the pressure still is so on. Like, no matter what the lead is, every boat out there in A Division is wicked fast. So you have to be so careful to not get carried away when you're winning a race, right? You can't just get too confident. You got to make sure that you're still staying focused, because believe it or not, we've seen it before where people will have such a lead and they might lose it.
That's right. Emotional roller coaster is an understatement out here on the water. And especially when you have conditions like this, folks. You see boat 10 there with a sizable lead, and even they are experiencing some very variable conditions. They just went for a tack, seeing more breeze out in front of them. They're going to hit it and probably go on for a tack back shortly here in the next couple of seconds as they continue up the track. And boats are just trying to assess how to best play this current and breeze in different ways. And that's not only upwind, where there's a lot of crossing and leverage situations, it's downwind as well. You have to keep the air clear, like you're saying, Gloria.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and take a look at this start with race 7B. So it looks like they have 1 minute and 15 seconds left to go. It's gonna be a tight starting line. You know, you've sailed at a national championship. I've sailed at a national championship. How tight are those starting lines?
There's no room. There's
There's no
nowhere
room.
to go. You have to be very confident in your skills, trust your skills to be able to get out of a very tight spot with speed and be able to beat the boats around you, the boat to weather of you and the boat to leeward of you, and figure out a clear lane from there. But it's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be a little bit of an issue. Someone's too close, too far, we're too close to the line, too far. You have to be able to work with what with the cards you're dealt in a way.
Right, and that's the craziest thing is you can't be late. You can't be late. You can't try to, squeeze in there last minute. It never works. It never works. So you'll see the guys that are coming up to that line late, there's like a maybe 5% chance that ever works, right? So you have to be lined up bow to bow with every single one of those boats. Otherwise, somebody's not going to let you in. You're not gonna get a spot if you're trying to come in late. You have to be there at least with 1 minute to go, right? Lined up with the rest of those boats if you have any expectation to get off that line.
They just came off the line here in B division. You guys were seeing there. But again, boats went for the pin. They saw A division. That's a common strategy that sailors will use. They'll look at the division in front of them. They'll say, that worked. Why not try it? Oftentimes, it's a very good telltale, but sometimes conditions change. And here, a lot of boats went down toward the pin, but we don't see that tack like we saw out of A division. We see a lot of boats holding. That's a sign to me that there's a right shift, and as I look up the track, I can see from my vantage point A division racing upwind about a quarter of a mile ahead of B division, also showing a right shift. So the breeze is shifting. Sailors need to keep their options open. It's not a one-track course.
Right. And take a look at that view you've got behind those boats. I mean, that is absolutely
picturesque,
stunning, right? So you've got the bridge and the buildings and so on. It's truly got to be one of the most beautiful venues I've been to, right? Especially for a spectator. I mean, some coaches don't even need their what do you call those?
The old binocs.
The binocs, right.
Binos.
Yeah, the binos. Some coaches don't even need those binos. You can see pretty clearly. I mean, I'd say that I would normally need some glasses, but even I can see these A-division boats coming across here, even all the numbers. So brand new sails, and it's truly pristine. Everything could not be nicer for these sailors coming into this, and that's the nice thing about, national championship is you're showing up, that everything's going to be equal amongst all your competitors. You're being given the best boats, the best sails, right, the best venues, and that everything that can be controlled has been controlled and set up in your favor. So it's truly where talent comes to shine. Right, so everybody has the same exact thing. Who can really take that, and who's going to go the fastest, and who's not going to crumble under the pressure?
That's it. And the only reason I'd say we would need glasses up here is for the sun, the glare. It's coming off the water. It's strong out here, but that's a good problem to have. Let me tell you, we've had some rain days, to put it lightly, on these waters before. So. There you see B division racing upwind after the start, and it was a right shift for a long time there. They're starting to get a little bit of a lefty, lighter breeze now in boat 17. That's boat 17. That's boat 17 there, Bowden, off to a really, really good lead here. But the breeze now starting to shift back right, so the boats, you can see the bows coming up and down. It's an indication of a shift. All that lateral distance you folks see between those boats, that's leverage. A little bit of a shift, and that turns into a big gain or a big loss.
Right. Yeah, and you'll see how crews just have to be super on their toes in these conditions, right? So if you're hiking, right, you got to be in and out in these up and down conditions, right? You might be hiking 1 second, then you might be in the boat the next. So the best crews, you'll see that they are on their toes. They're never sitting down. Never, right? They are like fully squatted in those boats. Butt is lifted off the actual thwart, right? And they're just fully squatted, and they've got like a cat-like walk throughout the boat, right? Just really, really slithering throughout the boat, right? And that's going to be some of the having a good crew in conditions like this. I think it is pivotal, right? So it is so important to have a strong crew in this. And, look at, here we go. We've got some breeze coming down now. Crews are back out. They're hiking, right? And talk about physical performance. You really, to be on your toes, that's not easy.
No, it's not. You have to be shore leg. You have to establish your sea legs, and you don't have much time to do that. You have to do it quickly, and that's where all this practice comes in. These sailors have a lot of hours of practice that they've done over the last year, and for many of them over decade plus in their sailing career. So there you see, B division, like you're saying, it's a hiking fest in those FJs. Got to keep that boat flat when it breezes up, and then if breeze drops, got to come in quick, let that jib out a little bit, and keep the boat moving forward here. And I'm just watching Holtis, Georgetown. He's going to win this thing. A great lead for her, finally breaking through here in the finals. And watch out, folks, because she can get hot.
Yeah, and she kept that lead. And that's going to be an electric feeling coming back to shore after that one, right? So she's got one more race, right? So this is one of those balance things, right? You win a race by that much, then you still got another one. And guess what? After that, you rotate boats, and then you got two more for the day, right? So, but I got to say, that's a very, very impressive lead for an A division sailor at the Nationals.
It's tremendous. That's a race win. Holtis and Fung, Audrey Fung, her crew, winning race 7A here at Kings Point.
That's awesome. Yeah, we definitely love to see that. And it looks like Piper Holtis, she's actually class of 25, so she's not going anywhere. She's got some more time. So you know what? To be a younger sailor in A division, win by that much, you're absolutely right. She's on fire. We got to watch out for her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then I think the second there was Boston College, Boat 4. Obviously, they're trying to defend a little something called the national championship title, right?
That's for sure. Yeah, it looks like in that BC boat we have Colleen O'Brien. She's class of 24. So, her and her sister are very, very strong sailors. Those are definitely names that we've been hearing over the years, and I don't think they're going anywhere either. They've got one more year to go, and we'll be seeing them in some of the open stuff as well. And they're definitely a very strong duo. I'm not sure that my sister and I could ever be on the same team, but to each their own,
It's something impressive. We talk about like twin telepathy or something like this. I'm not so convinced, but at times I kind of question that maybe it does exist, because I've seen a number of pairs really, really have some success. Also some conflict at times, but that's part of sailing. It's a yelling sport maybe by nature. Who knows? But sometimes it's just really magical when some siblings and pairs of twins can have success together.
Right. We're going to see a few twins actually over the next few days. We've got the incredible Coles twins from Yale, and they're superstars, right? So those girls aren't going anywhere. We'll definitely be talking about those two throughout the next few events, and we do have Sophia Reinecke, who's out on the water. She went to the same school as her sister, her older sister, who was also college sailor, women's college sailor of the year and multiple All-American. Sophia, do you want to tell us a little bit about what it's like going to the same school as your sister? I know you guys didn't overlap, but what do you think? What are your thoughts on siblings going to same schools, overlapping, and then why don't you also fill us in on what's going out there on the water?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Erica and I, we never overlapped. She took a gap year, her time at Boston College, and then I took a gap year, both for different reasons. It is. It's hard not to follow, I think, your older sibling, at least for some people. I know I was looking at different schools when I was searching for colleges. And ultimately, it just comes down to visiting the school and finding out, like, what feels good for you. It doesn't really matter what the name of the school is, like, where your sibling went, like, what other people want you to do. You'll know when you visit if it's in your heart, and if it happens to be where your twin goes or your sister goes, then that's it. It's all on you. So I can't attest to sailing on the same team as my sister. We actually only did that for the first time in our lives last summer at a 2v2 women's team race. It actually went really well, and we still laugh about it to this day. So we'll see what the future holds for both of us. As far as the O'Brien twin pair goes, I know, when times are good, things are good. And as you said, when you're siblings and times are bad, you know where to punch and hit. But at the end of the day, you love each other no matter what. And it does really make magic happen when you have your sister by your side no matter what. So love that. And yeah, the Yale girls are out here too. I think we have some other sister combos, and we've had that way in the past on even the open side too. I know the Williford brothers. I sailed in high school with them. They went to Dartmouth together. And who else do we have? We had the Burns brothers at Harvard. And if I'm forgetting any other twin sibling pair combos out there, like, sorry about that, but those are just off the top of my head. You guys know how cool it is sailing with your best friend. So as far as the conditions, it's still really light and shifty out here. It's really up and down. The crews are still in and out, very cat-like, like you said. Kind of have to have your eyes out of the boat. The race for A division was pretty different from the race for B division, just because the phase off the line was pretty different. And you just got to be looking for the pressure. It seems to me like that's the main factor right now, and setting yourself up for what's closest to you. And we'll see where it goes from there. I know they're starting B now, or sorry, starting A behind us in the 420s. And it's tight racing, one mistake could be 5 boats, and some 7s are better than other 7s. If you can get from 9 to 7, that's incredible in this condition. And for the Georgetown girls, the last race, they had a pretty incredible lead like you guys were talking about, and just got to stay disciplined, not let the highs get to you, not let the lows get to you, and keep focusing on what you're working on. And that's what we got out here right now.
Incredibly well said, Sophia. Thank you so much. I really liked what you said there about, siblings. My favorite, I think, part of what you said was, where to throw those punches. So, but yeah, I will say that watching B Division just coming up, there was such a light spot. And now Breeze is starting to come back up. You can see boat 1 looks pretty advanced here on the right side, but, you can't count on that, Like I said, the shifts are coming back and forth. It is super shifty, and although it's really easy for me to be like, boat 1 looks like they're pretty far up, it's you don't know what's going to happen next. The left might come in, right?
That's it. And don't let this high vantage point that we have, that you folks are seeing sometimes from the overhead cam, fool you. When you're out on the water, you're 1 foot, 2 feet above the surface of the water. You're not seeing what we're seeing. It's a different game, and it's not easy. It's not. Here we come on a start here. 13 seconds to go. Division A. We just keep going. Georgetown, boat 10, I can see them. They're down by the pin. Again, pin is packed.
Right, and I'll tell you what, it looks pretty light down there.
Looks like they call off this start, potentially.
Yep.
These boats are rounding back. That's a sign that potentially they called this one off.
Yeah, so it looks like then, the best thing for a sailor to do in that moment when they call off a race, take a deep breath, right, and just reset that watch, right, and start talking to your crew. What is our next game plan? The really neat thing about the finals and having, A division and B division out there at the same time is that you can look up the course and be like, okay, what's going on in that other race? What is something that I could be looking for, right? So what is working for them, and could that potentially work for us?
And here we go again. Breeze is up.
Right back.
Just like that. Right back up. Crews are hiking again. And beating to windward in B division. I think A division, as you can see from the drone there, they're just going to wait for this wind to stabilize, maybe reset the course if they have to, although I don't even think so. It's shifting around so much. You get into trouble as a race committee if you say, we have a shift, bring the course over. And then guess what? It goes right back. What are you going to do? Bring it back. Now you're just chasing the wind. Good luck. It's like a dog chasing their tail, right? I mean, just not going to work out very well. So sometimes they'll just go ahead and leave the course and let the sailors play.
Yeah, exactly. So looks like again, B division. You can see some crews hiking hard out all the way out to the left in that pressure. On the right side, not so much. But it's also really important to note that you've got B division in the FJs. You've got A division in the 420s. It looks like the 420s in A division right now, they do not have the same breeze that B division does. And so those 420s, they're big, right? They're way bigger than those FJs. That takes so much more physicality to actually maneuver those things. So on the starting lines, especially in this lighter stuff, I mean, you can see all the crews are sitting in, and pressure might come down in time for this start, but you really, really got to roll that boat to get it going.
And the thing is, as the pressure fills in, the 420 becomes a very dynamic yacht to sail in because it can plane. It can plane, and that is literally the hull comes a little bit out of the water. The boat increases in speed tremendously, and it looks like we're coming up on a start here. And these sailors, you see how they go for a big hike there. That's trying to get the boat kicked up on a plane and blast over the top of the people around you. That's critical. You get into a situation where you're pinched up and their jib is not catching the wind as it's meant to. You're going to get past and have a really, really tough race.
And it sounds like race committee said that boat 5 is over early, so that's tough. I believe that is the Harvard Crimsons. That sounds like, yep, they were over early for that race, which is tough because they had a really good start the last race. But there you go. That's sailing for you, right? You can have a really strong race and then really, then you can be over, and that'll make all the difference. And the wild thing about A division, just even watching that start, is that they were all piled up by the pin. There was a massive gap between the actual starting boat and then the most windward boat. So that just is a testament to how difficult A division is, because nobody, right, like we were saying earlier, no margin of error, right? So it's everybody starting at the favored end, right? And there's no room for error.
Yeah, I mean, you're out there and you're saying, I know the pin's favored. I'm going to go out and start there. Well, guess what? 17 other boats are thinking the same thing. So good luck. And that's one of the things that these sailors have to try to balance is, do I go down in the mess and scrap it out in a knife fight? Or do I move up, give up a little bit of the strategic advantage, and maybe have a safer start with less congestion, a little bit of an easier time? That's $1 million question. The person who answers that right is going to hold the trophy tomorrow evening, and everybody else will have to wait till next year.
Yeah, you got that right. So, and here, folks, maybe you can even hear it on the mic, but we've got big breeze coming down again. So up and down. I mean, these conditions, you got to be on your toes, right? So this big breeze is starting to come down. I'm feeling it. I'm starting to get a little chilly. It's a little brisk. And you can see that even the boats, just looking at them, they are starting to punch out with speed, especially this A division start in those 420s.
And what I'm seeing here, Gloria, a little bit, and we can check with Sophia on this maybe, is when the breeze picks up, when it comes up stronger, it's tending to be a left shift. We're seeing that again with a little bit more of this drag race style of upwind here. You're seeing it on your screen, folks. These boats planing out on port tack toward the first mark in more breeze. That shows more breeze and a little bit of a left shift there from more of the average angle that we've been seeing. That can be a pattern that can play out in a day. Just because it's shifty, there still might be the occasion where stronger breeze tends to be a left shift, or on other days a right shift, and I think today it's tending to be a left shift, and sailors, they need to recognize that and know where to position their boat to best harness those conditions. You see boat 1 there going for attack, so they were sailing out on port tack, lifted, but they realize if they stay there and this breeze continues to go to the left, they're not going to be very in very good position according to the left boats. So they tack away, have to take maybe a few turns, although they're looking pretty good crossing most of the fleet. So they picked a good time to do that.
Right, yeah, and that's the Charleston Cougars. We've got Grace Squires, class of 24, and Chloe Hudgens, class of 24. So, we've got some juniors out there. It's definitely not easy being in the A division as one of the younger folk, but she seems to be having a pretty strong race here. And Charleston has definitely been doing a massive rebuild year. They had a former Women's College Sailor of the Year, Paris Henkin, who now is doing an Olympic campaign for the 49er FX. Incredibly talented woman. So I think their women's team has been doing quite a big rebuilding since they had lost her.
Very interesting move there, in my opinion, from Squires and Hudgens. They tack before boat 18 and before getting to boat 16 there. For lack of a better term, giving up the left side of the race course. They're assuming and they're thinking, according to that strategy, they're going to have another right shift to come into the weather mark on. We'll see, but actually, right-handed boats have crossed them up, so they actually maybe shouldn't have tacked way back when they did and tried to cross the fleet, because that righty has come in and the few right boats have passed them.
Yeah, and so you can see those bows kind of bouncing up and down. I'd love to hear from our on-the-water reporter, lovely Sophia. Do you want to walk us through a little bit? What are the waves kind of doing? And Sophia, you were watching a lot of the racing this morning. You saw a lot of the current moving. We saw a lot of people overstanding ley line this morning. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about what that water's doing out there?
Yeah, so pretty interesting stuff. Again, never been here, but I can already tell it's pretty big current venue. This morning it was ripping the girls over the top ley line, so they were rounding pretty far away from the mark, overstanding. It seems like people that would sometimes tack early kind of snuck in on the inside, and now with it being light and shifty, a little bit lighter, it seems to have changed a bit more. I think that's why a lot of girls not making the pin here. We've seen that quite a few times. But last start in A Division, like you saw, we had one boat over, boat 5. I think that was Harvard. And come back, circle around the end. BC as well actually followed them. The race committee called 5, but numbers sound similar, as everyone knows. Like when you're stressed, you could hear boat 5 and you're 17 and you panic. So BC went back, and so did Harvard. They actually both split on opposite sides of the course, starting in 17th and 18th, obviously. And like Spencer is saying, the left side has been picking up pretty strong with puffs. Harvard went that way, so I'm curious to see Harvard's comeback for A Division at the top. Should be pretty interesting. At the end of the day, though, I'm still seeing pressure dominates all out here. We've got the B race behind us, just finished. Really tight finish between the top 6 boats and the FJs. I couldn't tell. It was like 4 boats finishing at the same time. So goes to show you, it's not just, A Division, it's college nationals. This is it. It's the championship. B Division 2, points are tight, and boat length between 1st and 6th, so you got to fight for everything, every mark rounding, every tack, every starting maneuver. It's just everything counts, and that's what I'm seeing right now. It's kind of lightening up again here for this downwind. The pressure's not really on, and we'll see what happens.
Precisely, Sophia. Yeah, it's definitely tough conditions, right? So you got to be thankful that there is breeze, right? It could be a lot worse. We've seen worse. We've seen pretty light stuff where we're not moving or we're not sailing. So we're just happy to get these races going. And honestly, for all these spectators, this makes it pretty interesting for us, So we get to watch the crews maneuvering in and out. And at the end of the day, after this event, we're going to find out who our All-Americans are.
This is great right here in front of us. 3 big players, Holtis, Georgetown, Coles, Yale, and Hawkins, Dartmouth battling it out on the downwind along with their crews, obviously. And you can see just how that puffy condition plays into it. The boats were neck and neck. Whoever got the breeze first takes a little bit of a lead as they come into the gate rounding to go back upwind. That's the difference between the first, second, and third. Sometimes it's just a little bit, I'm not going to say random. Nothing's random, but you have to keep your cool. Holtis splits. She goes for a right-hand turn. Coles and Hawkins, Yale and Dartmouth take a left-hand turn, and we go back upwind, and we'll see who's gonna make out here. And I see a bit of a right pressure coming down, so I wonder if that will be the defining feature of this upwind leg.
Right, and so like you were saying, it's neck and neck in a lot of these races, right? And it's funny because you'll look over to your side, right? And college sailing really brings in some of the best players in our nation, right? A lot of these people will go on to do Olympics. A lot of them may have already done an Olympic campaign. Some of them will be world champions, right? Youth world champions. We're talking, we have such highly ranked sailors in every single fleet. And so, one downwind, you might be looking over to your right. You've got somebody who's done an Olympic trial already, and then you'll look over to your left, and you'll have a youth world champ, and it really brings the heat. It really brings the heat in these fleets, and it's so tight, and especially, you got to be so careful when you're out there to not foul as well. I mean, when you're neck and neck, especially when those mark roundings can get awfully spicy.
You're looking at, folks, just to prove Gloria's point, you're looking at 3 world championship rings in your picture right there. Dartmouth and Yale, with Coles having 2, Hawkins having 1. So that's not such a small accomplishment, is it? And of course, Holtis also with the national championship in her junior career in the Club 420. So these things, like you're saying, everyone has accomplished a lot. It's about just battling it out, executing, and keeping your cool, and actually enjoying the fact that you're racing amongst the best in the business, and just enjoy it and see what you can do.
Yeah, right. So, Maddie Hawkins is class of 24. She's definitely one of those sailors that we hear her name a lot. She's definitely one of those superstar sailors. She's gonna be one of those sailors that's gonna be here for all 11 days. She sailed the semis of women, helped qualify her team for the finals. She's here. She's sailing the finals, A division, right? We're gonna be seeing her in a lot of the team racing for Open. We're going to be seeing her in the open fleet racing, right? So she's one of those sailors that isn't going to be leaving your screen, folks. So it's definitely worth keeping an eye on her. Her and her crew, Aisling Sullivan, who class of 22, a sailor from Chicago. She's one of those. She's a 5th year, so she's also going to be sticking around, and a name that we need to be looking out for.
That's right. And we see another start coming from B Division. The action just keeps on rolling here as the timer ticks down and off they go. You can see, folks, a little bit of a different technique between the 420s, which can plane out off of the start, and the FJs not going to plane their displacement boat, much slower. Still very important to have the crew and the skipper acting in unison and sailing the boat correctly. That's going to be the differentiating factor between a good start and a not-so-good start.
Yeah, and for those sailors, or for those folks that are watching this that aren't sailors, like Spencer was saying, that the 420s are much bigger, right? So it's a lot more physical to maneuver. Those FJs, on the other hand, you'll also see that the crews are sitting backwards. So, in a 420, you could get away with your crew also sitting backwards. I actually really liked it when my crew was sitting backwards in the lighter stuff in the 420. I kind of liked pushing that weight a little bit more forward. And you'll see that a lot of the higher level crews, some of them will also sit forward or sit backwards rather in those 420s. But so, very different boats to sail, and some programs, some teams don't even have both boats. Some will only have 420s. Some will only have FJs. So a big part of preparing for nationals is making sure that you're getting practice in both boats, because they both are sailed pretty differently, right? So, I mean, that's easy to say, right? Any sailor can just be like, oh, it's the same thing. They're both dinghies. Double-handed dinghies. That's it. But there are some, once you start getting into the nitty-gritty detail, the technicality of these boats, you'll really find that there is a difference, right? So, you can, in terms of the 420s, it's, your crew might be used to sitting backwards in an FJ, right? And maybe you want them sitting forwards in a 420. There's a lot of differences between the two. And so it's that other thing is you'll hear a lot of teams say, oh, she's very strong in the FJ. She's not so good at sailing a 420. Right, so, and keep in mind, A division and B division, they switch off the boats each day. So, today we've got the A division in 420s, and we've got B division in FJs, and then tomorrow they'll switch. So, you'll see that any day is anybody's ball game, because you might have these sailors that are sailing better in FJs or better in 420s. So, and if they're solidly that division sailor, it starts getting a little tricky.
One of the terms we like to use is we sometimes call people an FJ specialist or a 420 specialist, or sometimes we'll even go so far as to call someone a heavy air specialist or even a light air specialist. I tend to see a pattern where some of these sailors from Southern California who have a little more experience in the FJ, where the boat is popular, sailed in the junior fleet, they're very good in the FJ. When you come into the Northeast and you see sailors from New England, sailors even from down the coast in the Florida area, they tend to be very good in 420. And depending on where they grew up, some are very, very good in light air, and some are much better in heavy air, and vice versa. And some are just all around very, very consistent. That's a key. And Gloria, just a point to what you were saying, and as you see the FJs going up wind there, you can see, folks, the mast rocking back and forth. These sailors want to prevent the boat from chopping wood, if you will, at a pound. Very slow, and it's invigorating for the sailor. So getting back to your point about where you want the crew to sit, I think that's going to be a factor for these sailors to try to figure out how can we not let the boat slow down in the waves that we expect to see here at Kings Point, especially as we anticipate the arsenal of parent and spectator vessels coming out to watch the racing in the next couple of days.
100%. And, it's so easy you'll see the most common mistake with people trying to overcompensate for that, chopping wood, the bow slamming down. You'll see a lot of sailors want to have leeward heel and just too much of it. Too much of it, right? There is such thing as way too much leeward heel. And you'll see that the best boats out there are the ones that are able to keep themselves wicked flat, right? We're talking like 0 degrees of heel, if at most 5, right? And those super, super flat boats, they're just able to carve through the water, carve through it. And you'll see that some of the best crews, they'll be moving with the waves, right? Forward and back and along in sync with their skipper. Right? And so oftentimes the lighter and lighter it gets, the closer and closer you'll see your crew and skipper getting together. I mean, you're like shoulder to shoulder. You just pack yourself up like sardines almost. You're just like getting as close as possible. And that's why, there's definitely got to be no bad blood between you and your crew, because there's instances where you get way too close for comfort.
That's right. I can even think that as a crew, you really want to do a lot and get that boat going through the waves, and you get moving. You give your skipper a bump. They might not be too happy. They might go for a push. They might tell you to move, something like this. And as a crew, you need to keep your cool as well and take that and just sort of move on with it. And the folks, the FJs, just as we're talking about chopping wood like this, it's gotten really light. And I'll tell you, when it gets light, chop, chop, chop. The boat starts banging, banging, banging in the seaway. And that, again, the crew maneuvering, the skipper maneuvering, both people, it's all that more important if you want to maintain your speed. And the other factor we haven't discussed is current is sweeping these boats downwind. It's making it very hard to reach that weather mark, and that's why it's all the more important to try to be efficient in your weather leg.
Right. And I'll tell you, the good news is it's not that hot today. I'll tell you what the two recipes for disaster are in sailing, and where you'll see people getting the most agitated and frustrated. It's a hot sunny day, and super light air. I mean, there will be moments in races when it's super hot and super light. You'll be hitting some waves, and you've got sweat coming down your forehead, and there's no wind, and you hit one wave and your boat stops, and you know that you still have the whole race to go, and you'll see sailors coming into shore pretty unhappy, right? Like, just like, it's crazy what the heat can do to a sailor when you're out there on the water, especially like we're A division just wrapped up race 8 of the day. So imagine 8, and now granted we're very lucky here. We've got pristine conditions, quite precisely. But there's been so many nationals where it is hot, it is light, and that's where the real feistiness starts coming out in those sailors.
Absolutely. We saw the heat last year at Tulane. I'll tell you, we even went so far as put ice towels around some of the sailors' necks when they came to shore, just to try to clear their heads a little bit. And there you see boat 5. That's Harvard again in B division, putting up another good race. That's going to do a really, really good thing for their standing here, as they're now up to third overall, putting up some solid races. B division, 5th place, not bad there. And you see them just going downwind. There's boat 15. Is that boat 15 there on the screen? Yes, it is. Yale, boat 15 there, headed downwind.
Incredible, yeah. And so for the Harvard Crimsons in that B division boat, we've got Cordelia Byrne. Just like we were saying earlier, you've got those sisters. She's class of 25. We had Marbella Marlowe. She started out the first 2 races for their B division. But it's worth noting, Stanford's B division, Vanessa Larkamp, class of 26, has a stellar lead in B division, right? And so she's one of those newer names, and she's class of 26, so it looks like she's not going anywhere anytime soon. And to be a newer person on the collegiate sailing circuit and just be having such a large lead so early on, I mean, that's very, very impressive.
Gloria, I got to sail against the Vanessa Larkamp a lot in the junior sailing. She checks a lot of the boxes and what you're looking for a proficient sailor and player in these regattas: consistency, level-headedness, good boat speed, smarts, and good tactics and strategy as well. Good starting, not a big risk taker. And that's where you see a lead like that start to build up, as you just let the people around you make mistakes. Let them make mistakes. And eventually, there's no one left standing but yourself.
Right. And I mean, she's got her older sister, Michelle Larkamp, it's a question of, again, you've got your siblings on team, right? And Michelle has had such a strong college sailing career. So, what an excellent job on Vanessa's part of, it's so easy for some people to feel the pressure and feel the heat. You've got to follow the steps of your older sister. She's a phenomenal college sailor. And, even if she's under any pressure, if she is feeling it, she's crushing it. You know what I mean? She's like, I don't need that pressure. She's doing her own thing, and she is crushing it. So she's definitely a name we got to be looking for, without a doubt. She's having a very, very strong regatta so far. And I believe even in the semifinals, she absolutely crushed it for her team. So.
And there you see, folks, it's Yale again at the leeward mark. We cannot count them out. They are a very, very good team, and they are sitting in second. A little bit of a gap for Stanford in the overall standings, with the very good performance so far from Vanessa and Michelle, but Yale on their heels, first place at the leeward mark, followed by Harvard, followed by Georgetown, and boat 4 just off your screen now, folks, splitting off the other way as well. So these boats continue to fight for it. That's boat 4, that's Boston College, reigning champs. So it's anyone's game. It just doesn't stop. It's relentless. There's nobody that's incapable out here.
Amazing. And so, guys, we got, we can't not mention this. We've got Rodrigo. Rodrigo doesn't take shortcuts, okay? He doesn't compromise. Rodrigo does it the hard way, okay? And Coral Reef Sailing Apparel believes in doing it the hard way. So they take the time, the care, and effort to getting it right. And every piece of apparel is custom designed by a person. There's Rodrigo himself, the man, the myth, the legend of this event, I'm telling you right now. There he is with his full-blown gear. Thank you to Coral Reef. They're keeping him dry. And I'm going to tell you, I can't do what he does. I'm telling you, Rodrigo really does it the hard way. Like, no shortcuts. Look at this guy. How do you stay so stable with a massive gear like that on a boat? Rodrigo, don't forget him, because you're going to see him, and he is decked out.
Talk about sailing out here. I mean, I think he's doing the hardest thing of anybody today.
Right. and especially in the breeze. I mean, just seeing him out when the breeze comes up and the waves come up, I'm worried about Rodrigo. But not really, because it looks like he's got it covered, He's talk about being good at your job. Rodrigo he's a champ. So we're happy to have him helping out on the water. And so it looks like our B division race, it's lightened up a significant amount.
It has, and I'm just seeing now, Boat 4, Boston College, they've hooked into a really nice left pressure. There's that left pressure again. We were talking about it earlier a little bit, and the pressure dropped. It went light. It went weird. All of a sudden, comes back up. Bang, it's a lefty. So we're starting to see this pattern playing out a few times. The sailors, trust me, they're aware of that. Their coaches are too. They're coming to shore. They're discussing this pattern. But it's not just a lefty, actually, as you see Boston College tack back. That signifies a right shift, and that means there's still play in this course. It's just really a big pressure increase that's come in. So the breeze is all over the place, folks. I'll tell you. I mean, from my vantage point, I would have expected that breeze to stick as a lefty and stay, but no, it's swung hard to the right, even on the far left side of the racetrack. A very odd occurrence, but that's what we have here. And boat 17 on the far right side of the race course, that's Bowden, has made a huge gain on that breeze that just come in.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, just looking at the water over the past 30 seconds, it looked like there was a little bit of a lull in the middle of the course, and then breeze far left, but then you get this like puff coming down from the right side, right? And that's that boat 17 was all by themselves, which, by the way, bold move.
Very.
All the way out on the right by themselves, but this may pay off for them, right? But that's one of those things about sailing. You take a bold move like that, there's a 5% chance that it works out for you, right? And so maybe they were far back in the race and they were like, you know what? I'm just going to hit the right. I'm just going to hit the right, get my sail in clear air. I'm going to sail my boat fast, and let's see if I get a shift to take me back to the rest of the fleet, right? And so here's 17. What a tack. And they tacked in front of boat 4, crossed them, and it looks like they're just gonna go to that starboard ley line, and they look like they've put in a little bit of a gap here.
First at the weather mark.
Wow.
Bowden Polar Bears. That is just unreal. That's some of the magic you see here at the Nationals. Bowden coming from really the depths, and they come back, and they're going to be first at the mark with Boston College not far behind at all. Boston College is not off the lead by very much, maybe just 2, 3, 4 boat lengths. That's it. That left shift just came back at the top, so we've seen now 3, 4 shifts really up the track. That's something the sailors need to keep an eye on. That's a defining feature, and that's going to differentiate between good and bad finishes and races, and that's the game they're playing right now.
Right, and the neat thing is I'm hoping as boats round the top marks, right? The biggest thing is take a look at what's going on, right? So that's one thing I always like talking to my crew about, right? So it's like as we're coming up, if we know we're on ley line, we're good. We don't have to tack anymore. Let's start talking. What's going on the race course? Where's the next set of pressure? I'm to my crew. I'm like, take a look behind us. Where's the next set of pressure? That's what the name of the game is. When it's so up and down like this, you want to be getting to that pressure. And that's what Boat 17 did. Boat 17 must have seen something out on the right side. They must have seen that strip of breeze coming down. And they were like, you know what? I'm going to trust my gut. I'm going to go right. Let everybody get that left shift. I know it's going to be there, but I'm going to go right. I see something out here, and it worked. It worked for them. And so now we see them leading, but like we were saying, this is a very, very competitive fleet, and there's no doubt 4 is going to put up a fight. 4 is going to sit on their air, 4 is going to put up a fight to the finish line here. So while we have A division rotating out of their boats, it's anybody's game here. Quite honestly, Boat 4 could just as easily catch up here. All it takes is a bad jibe, a bad transition to reach, possibly too much veying, right? All these controls that you have, and, that's all it takes is one small thing, and 4 can actually quite possibly catch up to 17 here.
Easily. One of the things I like to think about on the downwind leg is getting into the rhythm and a flow. And as a sailor, you'll be able to identify when you're fast and when you're slow. When you're slow, you can have some panic come over you a little bit. You see that boat coming from behind, creeping up on you. But if you can stay fast, the crew can stay loose, move their body, the skipper moves a little bit. You can see 17 there. Kind of let the boat rock back and forth. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's letting the waves and the wind push the boat down the leg and just kind of gain ground with the flow of energy in the water. That's a good state to be in, and good boat speed, as this downwind is sort of one track. The second downwind tends to spread out a little bit. You don't have as much dirty air to deal with. If you can just get a good clear lane, sail directly from the windward mark to the finish, you're probably going to have a good downwind and hold your position, maybe pass a boat or two, and call it a race.
Here's what I do want to see, and I'll be honest. I want to see BC covering the boat ahead a little bit harder, right? You want to, there's no such thing as too big of a gap, right? I want to see a little bit more of that competitive drive right there. I want to see them fighting for that first place a little bit more. Why not just sit on Bowden's air?
I agree. It's
right?
Sort of a little bit of giving in, but to be fair, second position is not a bad finish at the Nationals. Yeah. Sometimes a team will say, this is a keeper race. That's a term we like to use. We call it a keeper. Different teams, depending on their goal to finish, obviously trying to win. At the Nationals, we usually identify a keeper maybe in the top 8 positions. Top 5 is great. The keeper, definitely top 5. You are saying we're in a good position. We're not going to do anything crazy to risk this. Yeah. You're in positions maybe 5 through 8. You're going to say, we'll be happy with this position, but we're not going to be counting out trying to pass 1 or 2 boats. You're in positions 8 and back. Then you're starting to think about rolling the dice a little bit, taking a little bit of risk, maybe pulling a move like Bowden just did there, going out to a corner, looking for something that maybe other people don't see. But with risk, but with reward, with the potential for reward comes big risk. You could lose a lot. You can make a move like that, roll the dice. Hello, 18th position, last place. And 18 is killer. Now, don't get me wrong. You can have 18th and still win the regatta. That's a misnomer. Sometimes people think you have a 118th and you're done. No, that's not the case. Everyone's up and down, but you can't rack up too many high teens, or you gotta be thinking about next year.
Right. Yeah. You couldn't be more right about that. And we see an incredible moment there was the Bowden polar bears crossing the finish line, and you could see their high fives and their little hug, and that's such a surreal moment, and I'm sure that they'll remember that for days to come, and you couldn't be more right. it's sailing is not easy. Sailing is not easy. I'll say that much. From that B division Polar Bears, we had Lauren Russler, class of 26. So she's young. She's one of the younger ones. So that's somebody we should be looking for. Then you've got the crews, Megan Gonzalez, class of 23, and Hattie Slayton, 23. So that's really neat because that means, the crews out there, they're seniors. That's a nice way to wrap up your senior year. Not saying anything's over, but to come off of a few wins in the finals of your final national championship, that's got to feel good.
Very much so, and that's a move we're seeing a little bit more, Gloria. We're seeing some of these younger skippers, freshmen, sophomores, a lot of freshmen though, with an older crew. We're seeing that in a junior or a senior crew. And I understand why the coaches do it. They know that a young skipper can be a hothead, for lack of a better term. They can be an emotional maniac. You put a good senior crew in with them who's had a lot of experience in big situations, calm them down. Because it's not just over the course of a day, but it's over the course of one singular race. You're going upwind. You're feeling good. All of a sudden, like we're seeing out here, wind shifts, and the skipper can freak out. Whereas if they could keep their comms, they'd be able to see a little bit more clearly and still have a good race out of it. So maybe they lose first place, but they end up in 5th instead of 9th, 10th. That's the goal, and that's why you'll sometimes see, and a lot of times we're seeing, an older crew almost being a caretaker for a younger skipper.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Sorry, I'm having a coughing fit. You just keep telling us some more about, seniors and how important these nationals can be for them.
Yeah, this is what the seniors live for. They've been working for this for all their entire career. And the thing about nationals is you don't get many chances. You get 4. If that, you have COVID-19 pandemics and other circumstances that are taking away people's nationals and whatnot. So every race matters. You can't let off the gas pedal at all. And here we are. This is the finals. It's 2 days, 18 races at the most, if the conditions allow for it. And so sailors are really wanting to get things done. And now we're seeing an overhead shot here, Gloria. It looks like we're having a break here, maybe a restroom break. Let the sailors eat some lunch, refuel. As you see the boats there on the dock, that's a sign to me that they're taking a little bit of a longer break than the normal rotation. And that makes sense. As we're saying, it's a marathon out here. You need to give these individuals time to re-energize, keep their energy levels up, keep their hydration up, use the restroom, talk to their coaches. And we have breeze. We really only need to do, I believe, 2 more races per fleet today to get to 10 total. So we have a little bit of time. Now, that's not to say that this wind could go away at any time. It's the wind. Who knows what it's going to do? Even the best forecasters in the world are wrong almost every day, it seems like, out here. But looks like just a little bit of a break. But we'll keep it going here, as it's just a beautiful day here at Kings Point on Long Island Sound. Looking at New York City over there. And actually one boat here, boat 7 here in A Division, just out there doing some training like we were talking about in the Open, just trying to keep maybe stay in it. They say, we don't need a break. We're beyond breaks at this point. We need to go out. We need to train, to get ready for the next set. Maybe a bold call in my opinion. I'm not sure if I would agree with that. I think a break is sometimes good. You need to stretch your legs, especially sitting there. The crew gets real tight in their legs, their hips, and the skipper. A lot of skippers have this hunched over feel to them. Their back is kind of rounded, and it's good to just stand up and roll the back out, stretch out a little bit. But if you go right back out on the water, you sort of miss out on that opportunity. So to each their own, that's what I'll say. But here we are.
Sorry about that, folks. I was having a bit of a coughing fit. That tends to happen when, you're just sitting here and talking. But yeah, so it looks like you were saying that's boat 7 out there?
That's right.
So that looks like that's the Brown Bears, of the next division. So the Brown Bears, I'm quite shocked. I be expecting them to be having a slightly better event. They have some incredible sailors on their team. So, and an incredible coach leading them, John Mollicone. I know they just had lost their prior coach, Stu McNay, who was formerly doing an Olympic or who has done multiple Olympic campaigns, right, and has gone to multiple Olympics. So John Mollicone has, as always, holding down the fort for the Brown Bears, and their women's team is incredibly strong. I mean, we see them dominating in team racing, right, and just always battling it out there. And I've done some umpiring. I've seen them on the water, and they're definitely one of those teams that we have to keep an eye out on. Even if they had a tough day today, I think they're one of those teams that has all the potential for a massive comeback day too.
That's right. That's right. And one of the things that I always think about when I think about Brown's team is their ability to dominate in heavy air. When it breezes up, talk about heavy wind specialist. These girls are really, really superior in those conditions. And we're not seeing straight up heavy air today, though. We're seeing very variable conditions like we've been talking about. So they're out there just training, maybe trying to find their rhythm. Perhaps they've switched crews maybe in the boat, and they're trying to get established with a new pairing. That's a common reason why a team might go out earlier. We don't know. We'll see that information come in through tech score in a little bit here as those things get updated electronically by the coaches in due time. So there you're just getting a view of the teams down on the dock. And one thing I'll say about that is that's where this nice camaraderie comes in, Gloria. You'll see, and you can see there, that folks, all of the sailors, the starters, the people on the water, and the alternates as well, group up around the boats as they come to the dock, help each other, pull the boat up on the dock, get some lunch, get some water, talk things over, just have a laugh. That's really an important thing. Have a laugh. Break this just constant stream of intensity that can be so tiring. Have a bit of a laugh, clear your head. It really works wonders.
Right, and taking a look at those Brown Bears that we were talking about some more, right? In A division for the Brown Bears, we have Blair McCarthy, class of 23, so senior, right? With Francesca Edmonds, 25, and Savannah Young, 25. So a little bit younger crews, a little bit different from what we were talking about before, right? And then in their B division, we have. Let's take a look. Oh, so it's B division Blair
B is
McCarthy.
Blair. That's right.
B
Okay.
division's Blair, and in A division we have, if I'm not mistaken, Caroline Bayless, also a senior, class of 23, with Nora Ong, 23, and Helen Horanjic. I'm sorry if I botched that. Class of 25. So looking at the Brown Bears, they've got 2 seniors sailing at nationals, so this is going to be interesting. I'm curious to see who they have on their roster to sail, either division for the next coming years, right? If there's one thing I know about Brown, they've always had a very strong women's team. So I'm sure that even after these 2 superstar seniors graduate, I can see them having plenty of other players that are ready to step up to the plate.
And that's the thing about college sailing, that we love to compare it to professional sports even. You only get 4 years, folks. It's not one of these sports where you can make a career out of staying in a city for, a dozen plus years like some of these superstars do in these sports that we watch on TV. No, you get 4 years. You have to leave your mark. And at the end of that time, these coaches are tasked with replacing you. To say it bluntly,
right.
You're going to be replaced. Who's going to do that? But you're not just being replaced. You can leave your mark on your team, right? You can leave something in the culture. You can leave your mark through your younger players, who then can leave them to the next generation and create a cycle just like that. But these coaches, they're constantly tapping for new talent, looking for the next recruits, looking for the next players to develop into a workable fleet and team racers at the college level, at the nationals. That's what makes this game so much fun, is who's going to step up, who's going to be next. And we've seen some people who really flew under the radar. They weren't very well known in junior sailing, but they broke onto the scene at the college level, at the nationals, in team racing, wherever it might be, and dominate, really become a force to be reckoned with. It's amazing. It really is. So that's part of it, is when you get to sail every day like these sailors do, every single day and during the school year, or at least in the fall and the spring in practice. It's a lot of time on the water. You have a lot of time to develop, to change, to learn things. You got to make the most of it, and then go out and perform at the national championship here in New York.
Say that is extremely, special about college sailing is you'll see how much the college sailors will mold the future generations, right? So you'll see that a lot of times college sailors, the summers in between school, right? They'll go out and they'll coach junior sailors, right? So they are consistently contributing and helping build up the next generation of college sailors. So, and you'll see that, a lot of college sailors might even go on and be assistant coaches, right, of college teams, or go back and, coach their high school teams and so on. And it's truly special how sailing, once you're in it, you're in it. You don't go, it's a lifelong sport, right? So, I mean, everybody that you see in college sailing, you're going to see these people for the rest of your life every time you do an event, right? Every time you go to a regatta, it could be the most random regatta. It could be a regatta all the way in Europe. Let's say 20 years after college sailing, you go to a regatta in Europe. I'd say you've got a 5% chance of running into an old college sailor from the U.S.
That's right, and it's something these sailors have to keep in mind. You can't say anything that you wouldn't, say to a good friend of yours out there, because it takes 5 minutes to make a reputation on this race course and a lifetime to change it. And you don't want to have to be trying to change that the rest of your career. So sailors, keep that in mind. Keep an eye on what you say and what you do and how you conduct yourself. It's important. You want to keep a good friendly relationship, and who knows, you might be out on that course and trying to cross a boat just by a couple inches. If that's your friend, maybe they let you go. If that's someone that you pissed off last regatta, see you in the protest room. It's not gonna be pretty.
Right. Yeah, and I can't emphasize that enough, and some of your friends from college sailing are going to be your best friends for life, right? So, but you're absolutely right. You don't want to be remembered after college sailing as that guy, You don't want to be that guy. They're like, oh, that person's here. And that's a very real thing, because like I said, you'll see these people for the rest of your life. So, it's very easy to get carried away when you're competitive, right?
Oh, sure.
But there's gotta be a level of sportsmanship you've got to hold on the water, right? So maintain that, and I promise you will have the best time every time you're out on the water.
That's very, very well said and very important. And now we're seeing, actually, folks, a mix of both A and B divisions headed back out. So maybe some people, actually we're seeing here another brown boat going out. It looks like they've made a roster change. I can't be certain, but it looks like they may have gone to a different skipper for B division. So they're going out and going to do some warm-up. We'll get you confirmation in that as these races come up here and these sailors get put into tech score. But I have a feeling that Brown may have made a substitution, and they want to get training practice for both of their boats. And now we're seeing A division start to trickle back out. And this is, again, like we were talking about in the Open, keeping your head in the game. You've been racing. Now you go in, you have a break, you have lunch, a little bit of a restroom break. Can you come back out and refocus? Not so easy. I'll tell you, it's not.
Yeah, and I think it's also worth noting, this is a team sport, right? You're not, other than single-handed, you have your partners, right? And you have your teammates. And the thing is when these swaps are being made, it's so crucial to be a supportive teammate, right? And it's so easy to be frustrated because you didn't do well, but, you know, it's so important to wish your teammate good luck, right? And tell them what went wrong for you and what, you know, help them out, right? This is a team sport. This is team points, right? If one of your teammates in one division isn't doing so hot, then you're not going to do well as a team. So it's so important to keep giving each other such positive energy, positive vibes, so that way you can pump each other up and actually bring the team score together, right? Because you're not going to win a national championship with one strong division, right?
Not going to happen. Just think about it, folks. If you go out there as one of the skippers and have 1s and 2s and 3s all day, and in B division, they're going out and having 13s and pluses all day, it's like you're getting 7s and 8s all day. So it's still okay, but you need both.
Right, right. And so we're going to throw it over to Sophia, who's got an interview with a sailor on shore. Sophia, tell us what it is.
Hey, so I'm here with Piper from Georgetown. It's been sailing phenomenally all day. Pretty good, honestly, in both divisions. Georgetown's staying disciplined out there. You want to tell me how is it going? Like, what's the condition like?
Sure, yeah. We struggled a little bit in the windier races, but as it's been getting lighter, we've been learning from our mistakes each set, just getting a little bit better and having fun out there, trying to stay sharp. It's a long day. We still got some more races left, and just knowing that this is what we practice for.
Well said. Have you had any amazing, memorable moments so far? Anything funny happen on the team?
On the team? I don't know. I mean, during postponement yesterday, we had some fun just playing games, hanging out with each other. Yeah.
Cool. Well, make the most of every moment and go Hoyas. Let's go.
Awesome.
I'll tell you, never thought I'd hear a former Boston College Eagle say "Go Hoyas," but we'll take it. So just everyone watching out there, just remember that moment.
Yeah, that's for sure. I made it a special effort of mine that when I was sailing in college to learn everybody's mascots. I don't know if I can remember them all that well, but that was my go-to way to make friends, is just knowing everybody's mascots. So every time I'm on the water or even on shore, I'm like, go Bears, go Hoyas, you know. And I think it worked, maybe.
I like that. No, I do like that. You mix it up a little bit. Who knows? Maybe we'll see some different mascots winning some races out here in this next set.
Yeah, and so Spencer, we were lucky that we were able to co-commentate together over in New Orleans for a little bit, for a few of those days. For viewers that maybe knew, maybe they didn't watch us last year, whatever it may be, they didn't know us, they didn't know sailing too well. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. You know, tell me about what are you doing at Georgetown? What are you studying? And tell me, I know you do some commentating work over there. So tell me what teams you work with.
Sure. Well, I'm studying political science, economics, and psychology actually, and I got into some announcing with Georgetown in their athletics department. Did some PA announcing for a variety of sports. Did it for soccer, did it for volleyball, did it for a little bit of lacrosse there. And it's been a great time. It's a great athletic department. Wish the basketball program was a little bit better, but I think we have a new coach now, so we'll keep our fingers crossed on that one. But no, it's great to be back here doing this for college sailing again. That was really a treat last year, and this is really next level, as we like to say, here in New York. Also, nice that it's pretty close to home here for me. Just grew up a couple minutes down the road, so it's all comes full circle, doesn't it?
Right, absolutely. So we're just going to cut to a quick break here, folks. Just hold your horses, and we'll be back very shortly.
The U.S. Merchant Marine Academy really is the world's best kept secret.
This is the best of both worlds, combining military academies and the maritime academies.
Our core values are respect, honor, and service. Our academic background is very rigorous.
You spend 300 days at sea on commercial ships.
You receive a Bachelor's of Science degree, your third mate's or your third engineer's license, and then a commission into the Naval Reserve.
It's challenging, but that's the reason I came here.
We are the next generation of leaders for this country.
Awesome. What an incredible school. I've always been so impressed with the academies, and now after being such an incredible host, I'm beyond impressed with Kings Point. I think such a flawless school and such a flawless program, and definitely can't do this broadcast without thanking Brendan Feeney, who has just been. I don't even have the words for him. He has put together such a brilliant event here at Kings Point. So, what an event, what a guy. They're so lucky to have him, in my eyes.
I need to second that, Gloria. Brendan's been a good friend of mine for a number of years since I was in junior sailing. He kind of always kept an eye out for me when I was just out there in my Opti. Actually, right here in Little Neck Bay, just off to our left. That's pretty funny, but I've gotten to sail with him in 420s a few times and done some match racing with him. He's just done an extraordinary job putting all of this together along with everybody else in the production crew. This is really a first for college sailing, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of the level of this broadcast, and we're so lucky to be a part of it.
Yeah, 110%. I mean, this is unlike anything anybody's seen before, and yeah, you're absolutely right. But I feel extremely lucky to be able to, help run this, and I've got 9 days. There's 9 days in me, 9 days of back-to-back on the mic. So, I hope I keep my voice so long as I don't have any more coughing fits like I just had a few minutes ago. But yeah, and so we've got some great people that are going to be joining me on the mic. So we're so lucky to have you, of course. And unfortunately, college sailing, you got to go do your own sailing. So we lose you for a little bit, and but we're extremely lucky to have. I mean, Sophia has come up from Florida. We've got people coming in from all over, and just phenomenal sailors getting on the mic. And we get to, the best part about it is we get to pick their brain. Like we said, Sophia had won this event last year. She had done that fifth year, stuck around, and I'll say there's quite a few people on this roster for this nationals that are in their fifth year. Right, and we saw a lot of people in their fifth years last year. Now, granted, fifth years aren't typical with college sailing, but especially with COVID, a lot of people were given an exception. And I'll tell you what, I don't know whether or not the fifth year always works, right? You'll see some very strong sailors take a fifth year, and the fifth year doesn't go as planned. Sometimes it doesn't even go as well as that fourth year. But you've got people like Sophia Reinecke who did that fifth year, right? Or rather that gap year, and it's the comeback, right? It's the comeback story. So you never know. You never know.
Yeah, actually, Gloria, on that note, college sailing just had their annual meeting here. That's a tradition that they do. They have an annual meeting 2 days before, or day before the nationals begins, so that everyone can kind of be in the same place. Now people can join with Zoom, etc. But they were talking about these allowances, allowing the fifth year versus not. Of course, you can only sail, folks. You can only sail at the nationals 4 times, regardless of a fifth year. So if, say, you take a fifth year, but you didn't get to sail when COVID happened, or maybe you took a gap year, so technically you've gone to college for 5 years, that's all allowable, and college sailing has done that to make these things as best and as most competitive and give people their fair share. But for nationals, that's all you get, so better make the most of it.
Yeah, that's for sure. While we're waiting for a race to get underway, why don't we talk a little bit about the Women's Team Race National Championship that was held, April 29th to 30th. Stanford was the host. A lot of those teams had to fly out all the way over to Stanford, make that commute, and then sail for 2 days. It was a 2-day event. You did have to pre-qualify, and that was an event where this is why we're looking for the Brown Bears today. But the Brown Bears truly had a stellar event. They finished third. Keep in mind, for those folks that are watching that are not too familiar with college sailing, this year was the second time that we have ever had a women's team race national championship. Last year was the inaugural first ever women's team race national championship. Prior to that, we only ever had the co-ed or the open team race national championship. So women never really had, unless you were sailing on your open teams, which is very difficult if your team's very large. Women kind of never really had that shot at a team race, right? You'd see very, very few women team racing in terms of driving, right? And so it's incredible what college sailing has done. They're really, really pushing for it. And so we had a great event this second year, and it's nice because it opens a lot of doors for women in sailing, right? It's allowing women to finally get that foot in the door with team racing, finally get to join in the team racing practices, right? And it also opens doors for recruiting, right? So now, back in the day, it would be easy for teams to just have two female drivers, two women drivers, and they were like, all right, that's our women's team. Now we're like, listen. Not anymore. You want to compete, you got to have at least three women drivers.
I'll tell you, my take on the championship is this. Yale is obviously a powerhouse. They've won both of these things. Nobody else has ever won the women's college team race national championship. Yale has won it twice, both times it's been administered. But Stanford, they made a great showing. They said, we're going to host this regatta this time around. They bid for it. They brought it out to the West Coast, which is great to spread the love a little bit. But I know it was a disappointing finish for them on home waters to finish just one race in the standings behind Yale. But they gave a great showing, and Michelle and Vanessa and Hannah did a great job out there. And then, of course, Brown and MIT also traveled well and rounded out the top four. But to get to your point, it's great to see. And I'll speak from my perspective, sailing in college sailing right now and practicing team racing. It allows us to, in addition to practicing team racing with our open team, to also have our women's team practicing team racing and practicing together. And I know that in practice, a lot of schools, the traditional way is to have your team race itself, basically, to have a first team and a second team. So now you can have your open team racing your women's team in practice and both making each other better. Right. That's incredible. That's what college sailing is all about. And the Women's Team Race National Championship has only been a tremendous success in both years that it's been sailed. I know it's only going to grow to come and have more and more schools getting into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think it's a tremendous thing to finally have, and it definitely opens a lot of doors. And, but you're right about Yale, right? And you look at their roster, right? We've got, from that team race, we had Mia Nicolosi, 25. Carmen Coles, 25. Emma Coles, 25. These girls are going, they're not going anywhere.
We're here, and we're here to stay.
Yeah, right?
And we're here to dominate.
Yeah, and we're going to put up a fight every single year. I'd be a little scared going up against them, but here we are on a starting line. Somebody's got to go up against them, and they're right back there.
Actually, they're back here, and we're coming down to the last, it sounds like 30 seconds or so to the start of this next race here. Light air again with what looks like another left pressure phase. We've been seeing that coming down. So starting line a little bit more spread, and it looks to me like, and you can see there from the overhead camera, big line sag. You can see that arc there that's formed in the fleet between the boat closest to the committee boat, the boat closest to the pin, and then it arcs down. That's sag. That's not a good sight to see if you're one of those boats in the middle of the line. You are just giving up ground to start the race, just starting behind.
Yeah, and that's definitely, that's not a great look. But it's, the best part about line sags is when there's one guy who knows it and they just punch straight through, right? So unfortunately, we didn't see it. We didn't see it here, but if you look on the water now, it looks like we're gonna have similar as we saw before. Right now, it's pretty light there at the bottom, but I'm kind of seeing a pressure line out left at the top, right? So I'm curious to see what's going to happen here. Is that pressure, that same pressure that keeps coming back and forth, is that same pressure going to come down the left here? Am I just seeing things, or is it going to be the same thing that we've been seeing all day long, right? So it's what time? It's 4 o'clock here in New York, and they've got 4 more races to do, and that's 2 per division. So 4 races total left in today, and I just want to see what's going to happen here.
And we already saw at least 2 shifts off of that line, Gloria. They started tacked to port, and now the boats that started near the pin have tacked back to starboard. That signifies at least 2 shifts already in the race. Shifty conditions, as expected for this northeast breeze that we have here, a dying gradient breeze. It's been slowly trending down, and then it'll kick back up, and you're about to see here, folks, and it's going to kick back up again. You're going to see the sailors start to hike back out. Those boats might start to plane off if they're lucky again. It's up and down, up and down. You need to keep your head clear and be ready for that, and be ready to tack on these shifts. I think we're starting to get to this scenario where you need to tack on every shift to keep working up the track. There you go, boat 13 tack. They get a header, we're out. Here we go, bang.
Yeah, and it's really fun to watch those tacks when the visuals are so crisp and so clear. You know, it's incredible the footage you guys are able to watch and we're able to watch. You can really see. Oh, do you feel that? You feel that breeze?
Breeze
right?
on. Breeze
wow,
on.
What a puff coming down here. I'm excited to watch this footage. You're probably going to watch people hiking out pretty hard here. I mean, this puff, you can really, really feel it. Things are kind of flying a little bit on shore. You know, if I had a piece of paper, it would have been gone by now if I didn't have something holding it down. But this pressure is big, so I am curious. What we've been seeing over the past few days is a sea breeze coming in around this time. You know, and there was one day in the semifinals where the sea breeze was coming in, also with this wind direction, and they kind of clashed together and met right in the middle, right? So I'm curious to see. We're kind of coming into that time of day where it's, well, I don't know what the breeze is going to do.
Gloria, I'll tell you, I don't think we're going to see that sea breeze today. I think that it was a little too cold this morning. You can kind of get that feeling where you wake up, you see these sailors, and everyone who's down here at the marina, the boat park, has their jacket on. It's a cold start to the day. If they start taking those jackets off to 11, 12 o'clock, maybe we get that sea breeze. That's a sign that we have warming, mixing, and the breeze can kick up, the thermal can kick in. That's not the case today. People have kept those jackets on. You look around, they're even starting to put them back on. That signifies it just stayed a little bit colder, not allowing that thermal to develop. But in a way, that's okay because that's supporting our gradient breeze. That it's holding, it's able to prevail, and we're able to race. And that's all we really want to do. And you can see A Division with great pressure. Boats are hiking, sailors are hiking, boats are planing upwind.
Let me tell you guys, Spencer, that is local knowledge. I love it. I love it. You ever look into forecasts? I mean like meteorology, you know?
Yeah, you know, I've thought about it.
You'd be a killer weatherman.
For a time, I was putting out some forecasts to my own team there down at Georgetown, but that's a whole nother animal down there in D.C. When you have a river and all this involved. But like people say, you can be a successful weatherman if you're right like 50% of the time. So I guess it's not a very accurate job, but here we go. These boats in another one-track beat, another almost drag race. So boat 13 there, they start near the pin, tack, do a couple of tacks on those early shifts. Here they go, big left pressure, running upwind, almost planing. But they're down a little bit from the leftmost boats. I still think they're going to be okay here, and it's a little hard to see with the vantage point of the camera, I still think they're going to be okay, but they're certainly threatened by a couple of boats inside them. As the camera pans back here, you'll see some boats coming just slightly to the left of them. Boat 5 is one of those. It's going to be a closer cross than we think. Let's see who plays out here. I believe that's MIT, boat 13. Boat 5, that's Boston College. Yep, so MIT crossing there. So it'll be MIT first at the mark, unless boat 1 can get in there, but it doesn't look like they will. MIT first at the mark, just like that. So a really good upwind beat for them. Oh, no, they have to tack. That could be detrimental, actually. That's a sign that that current is still moving. Looks like they pulled off that tack back, but again, sketchy. And you see boat 17 flop back over. So that current is still moving downwind, folks, which makes calling that ley line, that last tack into the weather mark, extremely difficult for these sailors, especially when you have a left shift as well, with the breeze coming directly onto the not favorable side for that last leg into the mark. It's all very, very, very tricky for them to call, and a very important part of the race to get right to avoid a penalty foul and to successfully get out of that part of the course.
Right, and we're just going to take a really quick break here, folks. Just sit tight. We're just going to have a very special guest joining us shortly, but definitely some tight racing, so just stay tuned.
Gear up with Zim and West Coast Sailing. We have the gear you need at a great price, backed by fast shipping and outstanding service. As proud partners of college sailing, Zim and West Coast Sailing offer 15% discounts to student athletes on all apparel and soft goods. Get all the top brands including Gill, Rooster, Zyke, Ronstadt, and more. Go to zimsailing.com/college sailing or westcoastsailing.net/scholastic-sailing for details to apply for your student athlete discount code today.
Awesome. Welcome back, guys. Thank you so much. We're joined here by a very special Richard Kane, Director of Water Operations at Kings Point. Richard, would you like to say hi to everybody?
Sure. I'd like to say hi to everybody out there, and thanks for tuning in and watching the Women's Nationals, and looking forward to another great event the next 6 or 7 days.
Richard, has anybody ever told you have the best, broadcaster voice?
Not yet. Maybe I can get a secondary job after I retire.
Oh, my goodness. You are killer on the mic. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what, you do day to day for KP and walk us through it?
Sure. I have one of the best jobs in the nation. I'm the waterfront director here at Kings Point. I've been here since 87. A little bit of time under my belt there. And what we do here is we let the midshipmen take the controls and get underway and give them the tools that they need to succeed when they get out of here, and take what they learn up the hill, bring it down, put it on hands-on. And my staff is the best staff on campus, obviously, and they really give all of the midshipmen the tools they need to succeed once they leave here.
Incredible. That is really, everything you guys have here. Like I said, you guys have been such incredible hosts.
Yeah, this is what you see today, and going forward in the last couple of days is just what we do down here. We try to do what can do people, and we try to make the best event possible for the college sailing.
Right. And you guys have such a beautiful campus as well.
We do. The campus is okay. The waterfront's the best, obviously.
Of course.
But yeah, no, we're very fortunate to work and live on Long Island Sound, and this is our playpen. This is what we love to do.
Amazing.
We have the other programs are just as flamboyant as this one is. We have offshore sailing heading out to around Block Island this weekend with 2 boats.
Wow.
And then we're doing the Halifax to Marblehead race in another month and a half or so.
Incredible.
Yep. So we're very fortunate to be part of Kings Point and really to work with these young men and women to really make a successful program. The waterfront is really midshipman run. We have a whole regiment of waterfront officers that really take the controls and learn how to work in the boardroom, if you will, before they get out of here, and give them a little taste of what that's all about.
Right. What would you say is your favorite part of your job?
That's a tough one. There's a couple of things, obviously sitting here watching, looking at New York City every day, is pretty good. But really watching the midshipmen really go from a plebe to a senior, and making less mistakes later on in their career here versus a lot of mistakes early on, but giving them the tools and really when they succeed, we succeed as a team, and when they fail, we fail. So it's a team effort. It's a family. We call it the Waterfront Family. We just finished our 37th dining in with our seniors, sending them off, and it's truly a family atmosphere down here.
That's incredible. And where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Long Island, so I actually grew up here at Kings Point. My dad was chief engineer of the training ship back in 1958 to 95. And so I came to work with him a lot. And in '86, he asked me to take a leave of absence from my job at the time. And 6 months later, turned into 37 years.
That's amazing. They are very lucky to have you. That's what I'm hearing.
I hope they're listening when you say that. So,
Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Let me make sure that all the midshipmen watching
That's
just know
absolutely
that.
right. No, I'm very, what you see here is a culmination of the entire staff's effort for the last 10 to 12 months. We really tried to knock it out of the park, and I think we have so far. You guys know, being behind the scenes, you see all the little mistakes along the way, but the people here, everybody we've talked to, the different schools, they really love the venue. I know you, I forget the woman's name that's out there commentating on the boats. She's never sailed here before, but she said what a great venue it is. I mean, to have all the sailors lined up here and watching their teammates out there sailing, and it's not a yacht club. It's college sailing. We are a college. This is what we do. And it's not a bother for us. It's something we look forward to, and hopefully we'll do it again in the future.
Right. I mean, you guys have been such incredible hosts, and something that's really striking me, and I can't seem to let it go, is you said you guys are like family, right?
We are.
And so that's such a big thing in sailing as well, is like being like family, right? You're a team. It takes that team effort. So Tell me a little bit more about the family dynamic and team dynamic that you guys have really. It sounds like you've really established here at KP.
As a staff, we do family outings together. We do Christmas parties or holiday parties, and then we do a summer party usually, and get all the families together. And it's my kids we started this when my kids were infants, and now they're 24 and 26 or 23 and 25. They're gonna yell at me, I got that wrong, but but anyway, yeah. But then you bring it down to the midshipman level, where we do different holiday parties. We they have this all hands barbecue, and they get the boats underway themselves. They go over to Manhasset Bay. They have a barbecue, jump in the water in the spring or in the summer, and then even during Indoc, which is our indoctrination, is our next big thing coming up. All the teams work together to train the incoming plebes. Wow. So it's a group effort, and you put people that are on rowing in a powerboat or a sailboat. It's pretty cool. They they don't get to do that very often. So, and that's really what meshes the family together.
Right. Awesome. Well, Richard, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time. And do you have any? My final interview question I always like to ask is, if you could tell anybody in college, looking back on all your wise years, what would you tell any student, midshipman, sailor in college?
I mean, you guys have said it earlier, but there's a couple of things I would just mention. One is you get out whatever you put into life. Everything. We're talking about a race here on the women's nationals, but that's just a little bit of what your life's about. Life has to have balance, just as a boat has to have balance to go fast. Your life has to have balance to make sense. And then again, you get out what you put in, and it's not a dress rehearsal. It's a one-time deal. So just go at it.
Awesome. Amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Rich.
You bet. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate you guys coming out, and you guys are kicking it today. So.
Oh, stop.
Thanks, Rich.
You're too sweet.
Yeah.
You got a killer voice, too.
Thanks.
I want to start a radio station with you. That's what I want to do. So thank you so much for joining us again. And
no, thank you.
KP, you guys have been just so incredible, and some of the best, easily the best host I've ever seen. So thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. All right. Well, going back to the racing, it looks like we've got, if I'm not mistaken, this is a B division race.
No, this is still A division, actually.
Oh.
Still going around here. I think MIT's held that lead, Gloria. I think so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right, so it looks like, so then in that case, we've got B Division starting.
Yeah, getting ready.
Getting ready for that next race. And Breeze is back up, right? So Breeze is still looking good right now. Hopefully this holds, and then we can just finish out the day, right? And so it's so hard. They're at that very final stretch of the day, right? They know they've got like 1 or 2 more races left, right? And it's that final push, right? It's been long. It's 4:20, right? It's 4:20, and you know that you've got about 25 to 30 more minutes of sailing left, and then the craziest part about that's 10 races done. There's only 8 more after that. Not even like we're going to be more than halfway done, right? So that's the really neat thing about this is like this event is close to being over. It's 2 days. That's all you got for this, and some people might feel pretty defeated. I don't know. They might feel pretty defeated after 10 races if they're not doing well, right? But the best sailors are the ones that have done, even after a bad day, they're like, I got 8 more races. I'm going to go rock it.
Trust me, I've been there at some points in my career where you say, the last thing I want to do is go back on that water tomorrow. That's the last thing I want to do. And that's a sport we all love so much. And that's what people are saying. But that's why, because you hate that frustration that comes out of it when you've put all of this work in, all of this effort, and yet the results didn't go your way. But everyone understands that nothing's a guarantee, and that's what makes it so special, is that when nothing's a guarantee and then you do accomplish your goal, it's an unmatched feeling, and that's what brings everyone back the next day. And of course, for the top teams, national champion's going to be crowned tomorrow. That's a life-changing goal if you can get there.
Right.
So you got to stay in it. You got to go back, reset tonight, and come back ready to go tomorrow. But Gloria, we're not done with today here. This is race 9A, finishing up there. MIT winning this race. MIT, a good team. A good team who's been up and down, but winning this race.
Yeah, and credit to where it's due. MIT had such a strong finish, 4th at Women's Team Race Nationals. And I'll tell you what, like that's a team that people sleep on them. People totally sleep on them. And I think one of their biggest successes, and I think this is what makes them so successful as a team, is, I swear on it, every time I find that team on shore, on the water, they look like they're having a good time. They're always smiling. Good vibes all around from MIT. Like, they're just here to have a good time, and I think it's very easy for people to get carried away and forget to have a good time when they're sailing.
I think you're 100% right on that. I overheard some of the MIT folks talking earlier today. They were a little bit worried about the heavier breeze in the morning. I think maybe that held them back a little bit earlier today, but here they are, winning this race, and a few other schools were up there. Stanford was still up there as well, as they're making a push to try to win this thing. A very valiant effort, it seems, at this point. So it just goes to show, though, Gloria, that anybody in these 18 boats can win a race. Anybody can win, and anybody can finish last. It's not a reflection on you as a sailor that you're the absolute best if you win or the absolute worst if you lose. Everything is fluid. It's something that maybe some non-sailors don't understand. I've had experiences, with kids that don't sail in high school, whatnot. They say, "What do you mean you didn't win this week? What do you mean? Come on, you either win or you lose." They're used to two-team sport. You either win or lose. That's not how this game works. It's 18, and oftentimes you don't win. You walk away upset, regardless of your finish, because you're second, you wish you were first. You're third, you wish you were second, and all the way down. So it's never easy. It isn't.
You couldn't be more right about that. And it's funny, it's as you're saying that, the breeze is starting to lighten up a little bit again. But there's definitely a common pattern. Like, you're seeing a lot of people going left today, right? Especially this afternoon. It just it's one of those days where maybe maybe, just maybe, leftist law. You're gonna be spending a little bit of time on starboard here.
And it looks like in B division here, we're seeing out of our booth lighter pressure like you're talking about and a bit of a right shift here. Boats can't get to port tack. There's carrying out on starboard. And that's where when you're at the top here and you see the overhead view there, folks, when you're at the top of that cone and you're one of those far left boats and there's no shift coming, you're starting, it gets uneasy. I'll tell you, you start to feel it in your gut a little bit. You're saying, come on, breeze, come on, give me something to come back on. Give me an opportunity to tack and get through this fleet, because it's the difference between a good race and a not so good race. And now looks like they've called off a B division race, abandoned the race here. You can see the boats turning around without getting to the mark. That's a sign they've abandoned the race. They've seen too much of a shift.
And that'll be tough because, it seems like they'd like to get that A division race off. And, this is a tough thing for a race committee because, as you know, a 420 can like we were talking about earlier, right? The 420s can go faster than the FJs, right? So race committees oftentimes will run into the problem of, in case like a race gets called back, right? You ideally want those 420s going first. You want those 420s to go because if you start the 420s even a little bit too close to the FJs, the fleets will start running over one another. So now we're going to have this tough spot of do we start off A division in those 420s? Then they've got their 10 races done. They're on shore, and then do we start the FJs, and then they have to stay out for way longer? Like it's this tough decision race committee has to make, and so we'll see what they end up deciding, but maybe that's the move. But then it's a little tough because it's B division will be out on the water for quite some time.
No, it is a tough call. You're right there. I've seen it go both ways, but the worst thing you can do, like you're saying, is have those fleets jumble up, overlap. All of a sudden you have sailors in different fleets having situations to avoid collisions, maybe filing protests at each other. It's just not a situation that anyone wants to have to deal with. So it'll be the job of the race officer to decide here how to best spread out these fleets and how to make sure that we can finish this racing. And Gloria, I'll tell you from my opinion, I'm looking far to the east. So folks, far to the right on your screen, it's getting a little bit wonky up there, a little bit light. The water just getting a little bit of a lighter color to it, a sign to me that not such great breeze coming down. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that this breeze sticks around just long enough for us to get the day's racing in here as everyone kind of resets. Looks like they have the weather mark set up here. Maybe they're going to give this B division race another go.
Yeah, and you'll see that sometimes race committee, a power move here could potentially be just shortening up that course, right? But at the same time, then you're worried. What have we been seeing all day? Light air, big puffs coming down, breeze for the races. A big problem with shortening up that course is then what if that pressure just comes back? What if that pressure comes back from that left like we've been seeing all day, and then it's like, okay, now that we've got a 12-minute race on our hands, whereas we really want the races to be typically 18 to 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes, right? But you're right. I'm looking over to the right. I'm looking up the water, and I'm starting to see some glass out there. And if there's anything I remember from sailing on Long Island Sound, it's when the glass comes, it's glass. It's glass.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. Hope that doesn't happen. Hope we can finish out the day here. And actually what we're seeing a lot of boats kind of milling around, but I think I'm seeing at least two boats headed toward the basin. In my opinion, they may be going for a change. They may say we're caught at 2 mile, although one's tacking back now, heading back. Maybe they're just checking out the conditions. But that is a call that the sailors have to make sometimes and say, even though it's not a traditional break, we have to make a change. We have to go to the bench, call a substitution for weight considerations, bring in a a lighter sailor to go out there and lighten up the boat a little bit. So they can do that, but it's change at your own risk, as I heard one coach say this morning. If you get caught in the basin and they start the sequence, not a good sight to see.
Right. You know, the more we talk about that, that's one other special thing about sailing. It's unlike other sports. It's very, I think it calls for a lot of independence, right? So a lot of independent thought, independent decisions that sailors have to make, unlike other sports, right? If you're playing soccer or volleyball or any other sport, it's very heavily like confined location, right? Confined field, just one area, and a lot of course, there's always going to be independent thought with any sport, but a lot of it is you have the plays, what plays you're going to do, you know what teammate you're going to pass the ball to in what instance, and so on. Sailing, it's like every day is a new damn day. You don't know what's going to happen, right? Hell, if your crew gets injured, you've got to independently decide, all right, can you sail? What can you do? There's so many different factors to sailing, right? You're constantly thinking about the wind, and you're thinking about the starting line, and you're thinking about if your watch is going to die, and there's so many different factors. And so that, I think, is what differentiates sailors in college from a lot of other college athletes, is a lot of that independent decision and thought process making that you have to have.
Oh, for sure. You win and lose on your own accord. Live and die by your own mistakes. And if you mess up, you better own it. And I'll tell you something. We'll laugh about this. Some people have a tough time owning up to when they mess up. When things go well, it's all them. But when things go south, nope, don't look here. Not me. Wasn't me. But that's all part of the fun of it, and that brings for some good laughs. And maybe some of the crews wouldn't agree with me. Maybe they wouldn't be laughing as much as I try to at that. But we call them crew blamers sometimes. Skippers have a tendency to blame the crew if something goes wrong. It was your fault. How could you do that? We need better tack. Okay. Yeah, keep telling yourself that. But
honestly, that's a very real thing. That is definitely a very real thing. So, yeah, crews don't get as much appreciation as they deserve.
It's part of the dynamic in a boat. It's something like none other. And there's other sports with partners and two people, but the dynamic in the boat where the two people have very different roles. The skipper has a job and the crew has a job. Maybe in volleyball, tennis, you kind of do similar roles in a two-person sport. But not in sailing. It's a very different job. One person is driving that thing and the other is not. So who's going to make the final call? Who's going to make the final decision? Who's going to take the blame? Who's going to take, the blame and the credit, in my opinion, is a 50-50. But who's going to make the final call? How are you going to communicate? What do you need each person to do? You got to figure that out, like you're saying, Gloria, on your own. No one's going to tell you how to do that. And when things go bad, no one's going to tell you. No one's going to be your therapist there. Yeah. You got to self-diagnose.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a part of that team dynamic, right? So you're stuck on that boat with somebody else. So you got to figure it out. Yeah. You totally have to. There's so many times it's so easy to get frustrated. One person blame the other and so on. But at the end of the day, if you guys are not in sync, you're not communicating, and you don't keep your calm as, between crew and skipper, then you're going to run into a lot of problems. You're going to run into a lot of trouble. And, it's so important to just continue communication with your crew, with your skipper, right? Let them know how you're feeling. Just staying calm, cool, and collected. And even there's honestly so many different ways to really just keep your calm. And that's with time as well, you'll see that's what you were saying, the more senior crews have been being partnered with younger skippers. That's because they've seen the range of emotions. They've kind of figured out how to calm down the skippers. They're more, they're in it. They're in it. They've got gold stars for that. And you take a look, and it also depends on who you sail with, right? So one skipper might need their crew just telling them to calm down. One skipper may need their crew to just stop talking and just silence on the boat, right? And then some skippers, this one was me, I would need to sing. So I'd tell my crew, I'm like, you need to sing with me. We need to sing.
Little entertainment.
Yeah.
Little bit of entertainment.
Just get me
right?
out of my head. Just sing with me. Sing to me, damn it. And so that was my way. So, and then once I start singing, it's like out of your head, right? You just need a distraction sometimes, and breathe and breathe. Never forget to breathe.
Yeah, I even had a coach once. I had a coach. He said, if it really goes silent in the boat, you can just say, the water's really wet today, or the trees are really green today, or something stupid like this. He says, it'll probably get them to laugh, or at least say something to you, like, why the hell would you say that, or something like this. And all of a sudden, you have communication again.
There you go.
So it can come down to these little sort of tricks to get people talking, to lighten the mood, and to move on.
Yeah, right. So I do want to touch up a little bit more on yesterday's semifinals as well. I think those people deserve to have that recognition, right? And there was a lot of incredible sailors that ended up going home, and it's tough. And there's seniors and so on that end up having to go home, and we have this incredible footage of the sailors in action. Yesterday we had a pretty good breeze in that afternoon, and the day started off light. They were postponed until 3 o'clock. Was it 3 or 2?
Yeah, I think it was around 3 o'clock late in the afternoon. That's why they only got 2 races off per semifinal. Right. And you can see some of the footage here just playing back over the last couple of days. And it gives you a little more insight into how these sailors are actually handling their boats. You can see that's a good start there. You see on your screen, folks, in a right shift, no one able to tack off, no one able to move. And here's some footage from the upwind. The boat's working through that chop. So some of the things we've been talking about, some of these keys, they're playing out day after day after day. And one of the things I was actually thinking about, Gloria, as we'll get back to talking about these semifinals, for these women sailors that are also going to be participating in the open fleet, they're going to have a few days over the open sailors who are coming in on Saturday to have already figured out this venue.
Yeah, and if there's anything that we've been learning about this venue is there's definitely patterns. There's patterns, right? Like, if this breeze doesn't fill in, then this comes in. If it's coming from there, then we see this, right? We see what sides, directions, and so on. So we're definitely seeing patterns, and you're absolutely right. That's going to be an advantage. So I want to, it's important to keep note of sailors like Maddie Hawkins, right? The Larkamps, like, where are they going to be? How are they going to be doing in the opens? We definitely got to keep an eye out on them, and definitely could be an advantage. And the other thing is what I can see being strategic for some of these teams is giving those sailors a break in the semis, right? Some of these teams have got big rosters, and so if you really want to get strategic and you have confidence in your team, it might not be the worst move to let them sit the bench for a little bit and just relax. Let the team take care of it. Qualify top 9. If you really needed, throw them in. But let them take a little breather, a little break, and then come in when it really, really matters.
Come back in and get ready for the finals and be well rested. It can work wonders to just to be able to relax a little bit, not have to go into that boat again and again and again, forcing the issue. So, yeah, as you see, just some great footage here from yesterday. Yale there on the dock, Coast Guard, and the spectating has been great. Some of the best I've seen in my time sailing, being able to watch the racing from land without binoculars, just seeing it. It's right in front of you. for all these sailors, all these spectators. It's been great in this venue here. So a lot of good things going on, and just a real treat to be here, like we were talking about with Richard before.
Right. You know, and as we were talking about sailors that are going to be doing all three events, worth noting Michelle Larkamp, right? So Stanford, turns out, only has 15 team members.
Is that true?
15.
Wow.
So you know, number one, very impressive what they've done up to this point, right? And number two, maybe she can't sit ride the bench for semis. Maybe the roster's so small that she has to be there, right? And she has to be sailing in the semis.
Certainly.
So you know, or maybe you know, who knows what they'll end up doing? But definitely worth noting they have some outstanding seniors as well on their team. You know, they're going to be losing some strong ones. So they're losing Abigail Tyndall, you know, phenomenal crew. Patricia Gurley, and they're gonna. This is Michelle's last year.
That's it. End of the road.
Yeah.
And just like that, we have a Division Bravo off and running again.
Incredible.
So they went back and started their re-race after having to abandon the last one.
So that's they're sending the FJs first.
They're sending the FJs first.
So we'll see we'll probably see a little bit of a gap in time here between the FJs and 420s. So definitely keep an eye on that, but it's definitely a light one. I mean, 6-6 is looking a little bit light there off that starting line, and
how they ever.
And you know, the wind shadows are so much bigger in the light stuff. So I'll tell you what, I don't want to be second lane. Don't want to be more than ever.
No. It's very important in these conditions when it gets a little bit softer to breathe out to an edge of the race course. If you think about this wind coming through the fleet, it's coming all the way down Long Island Sound. All of a sudden it gets to all these boats. That's almost like a wall. What does it do? It goes up and it goes around it. So if you're in the middle, good luck.
Right.
No wind left there.
Yeah, and absolutely. And then on the downwinds, you want to get a clear lane. It's gonna be tough. It's so hard because I gotta say the downwinds they're underrated because people are like, oh, it's the downwind. You take a breather. There's no breathing because you got 18 boats that are back to back to back. They're right next to one another on each other's tail, and all fighting for the same breeze. So it's so easy on those downwinds to get so in your head and be like, they're sitting on my air. Maybe they're not, right? But it's so easy to get so hot. You're going slower on the downwinds, right? You start feeling the sun beating on you. And so it's so easy to get, to lose boats on these downwinds. I mean, it's constantly, if you're not getting covered by all the people behind you, then you finally get a clean lane. Somebody's going to try and get a clean lane with you. You're fighting high. You're fighting for the mark room at the bottom of the gate, right? You're constantly just battling, trying to make sure that you can even just get around that gate cleanly. And maybe you sailed a very clean downwind, but then you want to know what issue you run into? You get to the gate, and you're the most outside boat. So then you're like, okay, there's 3 boats rounding inside of me, and I don't even want to foul anybody. So I need to give everybody space and so on. And that's where those gates get a little bit risque, if I may say.
Okay, so just looking back here at the fleet at Division B, racing upwind, boat 12, UPenn Quakers. Not a great start to the regatta, but a few much improved races recently, and here they are, boat 12, leading the way a bit here in this race. Nice zoomed in footage on them. They're doing a very nice job of keeping that boat moving quickly in varying conditions, breezes up and down. And if you can do that in the FJ well, where you can keep the boat rumbling as the breeze increases and decreases, you will find that your lead extends tremendously going up the track upwind. So this is a great opportunity for Penn to get back in the regatta and make a jump in the standings after a little bit of a slow start. I'll tell you, the race course is become a lot more fluid now. There's shifts on both sides. The boats are spreading out, and it's going to put a lot of emphasis on good boat handling, keeping your boat speed and tacking on your shifts. As you can see, more of a wide angle there, and Penn doing a really nice job, boat 12, like we were saying, just keeping the boat moving.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing about the light air stuff is just the roll tacks. This is where you truly see the athleticism it takes to sail well in this light stuff, right? So you'll watch these boats up close, and look at that flatten for boat 12, right? That's what I'm talking about. So you've got the crew. It's so important to not over flatten in light stuff. If you over flatten, you're killing your power, right? You're just going to take all that wind out of your sail. You will just watch boats slow down. But here we go. We've got attack from 15. Right,
15 Stanford tacking, and yep, over they go. Georgetown just tacked a little bit to lure there. 15 Stanford still holding on to the lead here in the women's nationals. Again, pushing the front of the fleet. That's a sign that the team is poised to finish well, because they continue to push the front of the fleet regardless of the race. That shows consistency. So it doesn't matter if one boat gets in front of you from this school or that school. As long as it's a different school every time, you stay up near the front. Good luck to everybody else. You see boat 7, boat 11, boat 10 also hooking into that right-hand pressure, right-hand shift that's kind of dominated the second half of this upwind leg.
Yeah, and just kind of looking at the overall standings right now, Stanford's doing a great job just gapping the rest of the fleet for the regatta. I mean, they are putting in a dent, right? So Stanford, you can see them. I mean, so they've got 77 points right now total. And the next school is Yale with 95 points, followed by BC with 114. So we're seeing like pretty big points here. Let's say 10th place team. That they're 100 points behind Stanford, right?
Wow.
So the thing is this is such a competitive fleet, and you see such good names. I want to talk about Bowdoin. Bowdoin is in 4th place right now. The Polar Bears. This might just be their strongest nationals we've seen in a very, very long time for women's.
Bowdoin here. Let's take a look. Boat 16. I think they're just off our screen to the left here. They should be coming into it in a moment here. So yeah, the key here, I think, Gloria, is for these schools, they need to keep up. They need to keep pace. If you're in the mix here, trying to win, trying to finish with the podium finish, you can't afford at this point any more 14s, 15s, and pluses. You need to be thinking 10 and lower in all races. If you find yourself back deep in a 16, you need to try your very hardest to pass a couple of boats, make it more of a keeper score. Otherwise, you're going to bury yourself and make your life very difficult.
Yeah, and, something that always fascinates me is oftentimes after you crunch the numbers of nationals, I think it was, and I don't know how up-to-date this is, but correct me if I'm wrong, but typically the average score in each race you need to get to win your division at nationals is a 6.
Yeah, it's around that, and it'll
something
depend
like that,
on
right?
the venue, if it's a shiftier venue or more consistent, but it's for people that think it's a 1 or a 2. No.
That's not it.
That's not really feasible at all. We have seen sailors really rally off some tremendous finishes in a row, but very rarely do you have a sailor be able to picket fence, as we say. That's impossible. It's never happened. You're always going to have ups and downs. You need to keep pace. You need to keep moving forward. You can't afford a deep finish, though. So we'll see these boats getting around that weather mark. And for the boats there you see in your picture now, that's more toward the tail end of the fleet. Those boats cannot be thinking about taking a big risk, banging out to a corner, rolling the dice, and trying to win the race. That ship has sailed, ladies and gentlemen. No pun intended. They need to be thinking about passing a couple of boats, getting 11th place, getting 10th place, just staying, trying to live to fight another day. And a nice pan shot downwind. 8 minutes, 8-minute upwind for some of those boats near the back of the fleet. That's a long upwind leg. That's a longer beat. So it's grueling. It really is a mentally very tough. Penn continuing to lead the way downwind here as we approach the gate mark. The boats will go back upwind, and then shortly after that, they'll get A division rolling again.
Yeah, and the nice thing is this is just the end of the day, right? So we're just coming up to 5 o'clock. My biggest thing is such a long day of sailing, right? They've been on the water since 10. What do you think is gonna be the key to success for all the sailors going into tomorrow?
Well, you gotta have a reset, and regardless of where you are. If you're a Stanford or a Yale near the front of the fleet, you can't get nervous tonight. You gotta find a way to get some sleep. You gotta have some good food, whatever. If you're toward the middle of the fleet and looking to jump up, you need to keep your head clear, and toward the back of the fleet, you can't give up hope. You need to stay smart. You need to stay positive, and you need to continue to move forward here. So we have a couple of boats coming into the leeward mark. We have boat 10, that's Coast Guard, following Penn right there, and then boat 15, Stanford Cardinal, Vanessa Larkamp.
Consistent.
Third place again.
Consistent.
Third place. That's a tremendous finish, and that's just from my take, not even a textbook race so far, but finding a way to get to third place, sign of a really, really, really good sailing groove right now from Stanford.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just still dumbfounded that they have 15 sailors on their team.
Small roster,
and talk about having a strong small roster, right? You'll see teams with 60 people on them, right? And Stanford's kind of proven that you don't need 60 people to get good. You don't, or to stay consistent, or stay strong, right? And they've got great coaches, right? So they've got Chris Clevin, former Hobart alumni, and then they actually have assistant coaches Augie Dale and Sean Harvey.
Yeah.
And Sean was last year's College Sailor of the Year. So, they know how to pick. This is another one of those things of former college sailor coaching up the next generation of college athletes, right? So Sean's just doing just that, right? So I'm sure that he's been helping mold these guys, and he's fresh out of college, and so that's A, not easy, but B, also very impressive.
No, it's huge. It's huge for them, and you can see it's paying off so far in this Fleet Race Championship, a championship that I think Sean would like to have back if he could from last year, his own Open Fleet Race Championship. But that's the sport, of course, a devastating loss by just 1 point to a tremendous victory by Tulane down there on their home waters. Just we were in the booth there. We had the privilege to witness that in action. That was tremendous. But here we are a year later. So here we see Penn doing a really nice job keeping the lead there. That's really, really well done from those guys. And that'll help them in their standings. You have Boat 10. You have Boat 10 Coast Guard. Coast Guard doing a fine job today. They would like to move up. This will help them a lot. And then you have Larkamp and company, Stanford, rolling up the upwind as well. And then Brown. Brown, we were talking about them earlier. They want to move up the ranks from where they were. They've made some changes in their lineup, and maybe it's helping a little bit as it looks like they're pushing for a top 5 finish. So that's in B Division. We'll keep you posted on them, folks. Moving right over, we have A Division getting ready for a start. Less than 15 seconds to go now for A Division, and now they're actually... And you hear the horns. That's the start of the race with that long blast. Start of the race. All clear, no boats over. Boat 1 at the far side. Boat 1 at the pin. That's Navy. Navy having a solid performance, not their best work. They are down lower in the fleet so far, so maybe starting near the pin, a little bit of a riskier procedure, maybe can help them try to find some success. We'll see there, but this is more of a standard start where you have boats toward the right-hand side of the line flopping over onto port, tacking out. Boats in the left side continuing to carry. This is a sign to me that neither side is perfectly clear what's going to pay off. Sailors each thinking slightly different things, looking for clear air as they move up the track. And you can see there from their shot, boats on the right-hand side on port tack carrying off closer to us, closer to the seawall where we are located. And boats on the other side heading out toward the middle of Long Island Sound, looking to capitalize on what I think is a bigger pressure increase out over there. We'll see if they can hook into it there as they go. So now this is back to B division. You see boat 12 approaching the weather mark. That's Penn. Penn in boat 12 doing a nice job. They've defended nicely. Don't underestimate how hard it is to defend a lead in these conditions. It's incredibly hard. If it was easy, anyone could do it, but it's not. And Penn has done a nice job there in defense of that lead, followed by 10 Coast Guard, followed by 4. 4 is Harvard. So they've moved up. They hooked into a little bit of a shift and pressure, moving up. And Stanford holding the lead in the regatta with 4th place. Very, very good. And then boat 7, that's Brown. Brown having made a change, I believe, to Catherine Doble. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that's who they've gone to in Division Bravo with a good finish. And we're going to go back now to the water to check in with Sophia on how this A division race is looking just after the start. Sophia?
Hey, yeah, just watched the A division fleet start. Navy, like you said, off the pin, just squeezed by, almost hit it, but then put the bow down and was ripping. But tactics-wise, it's actually a bit confusing. If I was sailing, it would definitely be confusing for me at first, but I think there's quite a bit of a current play here up the right-hand side, it seems to be. So you can kind of see pressure coming down on the left, pretty deceiving. Like, I think that's why a lot of girls fighting for the pin, trying to get to the left side. But as you progress up the course, I think because there could potentially be some current relief on the right, boats on starboard tend to get wound and actually just keep getting, seems to be windward lifted from behind. I saw, actually in particular, Dartmouth in the A division race started probably 30 seconds late in boat 2 and played the right-hand side pretty much after their start to try to recover and rounded in like 10th. And I mean, in this type of fleet, with this much current ripping downwind, to make that big of a comeback is huge. I think I mentioned earlier, like, some 7s are better than other 7s, and for them, I'm sure when they rounded that top mark in 10th, they were like, all right, like, we're still in this. Really big mental game. Like I said, the left looks great because of the pressure, but I think if you hold out right-hand side, you should get pretty wound. And I think the girls now in A appear to be doing the same. Some boats playing the left because they see the breeze, and others holding to the right for that current relief. So it's up and down, and it's great. Super competitive. Love it.
That's huge insight, guys, on how that starts playing out. It's a real knife fight down there, and like Sophia was saying, sometimes the pin is deceiving. It's tempting to go down there and fight for it, but not a smart play. It's risky, and it can be devastating if taken incorrectly. So here we go, boats coming downwind. You have boat 17, mid-fleet. They're about the 1, 2, 3, 6 or 7 position here. Boat 17, Division Bravo, that's Tulane. Tulane looking to move up in the standings. You have boat 13 MIT. MIT starting to string together a few better races. But they're going to need some help. They got to put together some top fives if they want to move up in the standings there. We have a zoomed out boat 9. Boat 9 is Cornell. Cornell's done very well, folks, in Mesa this year. They've really, really done well and put together some dominating performances in the Mesa Conference. They're looking to level up. They're looking to now do this and dominate at the national level. Here's their chance. So Cornell putting together a decent race in Division Bravo. They're going to take a 6th place finish here, it looks like. As you can see, a nice wide angle of the boats running downwind, wing on wing, most of them there, headed to the finish, Division B, with one more race to go today. That'll be race 10 for Division B. It's just about staying with it here. Sometimes the last race of the day, sailors tend to take a little too much risk or a little unnecessary, something like this. That's not a winning strategy. You need to be locked in. You need to stay focused and finish the day. Sometimes it even helps to focus on everything that's happening and just treat it like the first race. Sophia, can you talk to us about what you're seeing here on the top of this beat? It looks like A division is really, really, really tight up at that weather mark.
Yeah, so watching a round, we had, I believe this is Piper again. I interviewed her earlier from Georgetown, rounded the mark in first, and then we have Sierra from Tulane, rounded in second. Went to the inside pretty quickly. Most people doing that, I believe, again. Current play could be a factor here. It also looks like it shifted a little bit to the right-hand side, which would make jibing, hitting this reach angle that most of the girls are doing right now, as we're seeing, pretty dominant. Who else do we have up here? It is pretty tight, honestly. Everyone's rounding together. I think also with the current ripping down, it will appear as though the boats are spreading out on the downwind, and then when they hit the bottom mark again, fleets should condense. Just something, if you're in the front, you think, you round and it's all good, boats are spreading out, and then as soon as you hit the bottom, it's like stacked on each other again. So that's where the crew comes in, at least for me. I know some people, you get a little bit stressed when the boats get close together, but it's in those instances that you have to kind of stay calm, and I always relied on my crews for that. I'm sure a lot of these girls do too. When you hit this level, the crew is sometimes the voice of reason in the boat, always telling you where the pressure is, where the boats are. As a skipper, sometimes, you want to rush through the movements. You want to rush through attack. You want to get it done. You want to get the jibe done. You want to rip the boat around the mark. And the crew is there to kind of tell you, take it slow, take a deep breath, calm down, everything's good. And I think that's what we're seeing here. Tailing, I believe this is Maddie Hawkins from Dartmouth. It's a deep race for Dartmouth here, but great sailors on that team always, so she's pretty tactically sound. She should come back.
I ask you, is there any
light for sure?
Is there any sense in not jibing and trying to stay out in the current a little bit more that'll actually help you go downwind, or is it too far to make any difference?
With the current ripping down, I think you could do it either way. Not jibing would be fast, if you're always pointing at the mark, you're sailing less distance. But if current's going down with you and you do see a bit of pressure, I think if you either go to a reach or change your angle a little bit just to get to that little bit more of pressure, I don't think it's going to hurt you at all. If it was reversed, though, and the current was going upwind against you, I think that's when you really do want to just point straight at the mark and try to take it on a wing as long as you can. Again, we see boats here, 17 rounded first. That's Sierra from Tulane, so past Piper through the downwind for Georgetown, heading again out to the right-hand side. I'm assuming for current relief, seems to be the play. I can kind of see a very faint line in the middle of the course. I'm not sure if that's like a cutoff in the channel or not, but definitely has something to do with the current if I was seeing that. boat's really shipping it to the right here.
I think I'm seeing the same thing you are. Just a
good play.
faint line running down sort of from the top right of the race course down toward the bridge there. And you see, it looks like Tulane's made a nice gain, just hitting 2 nice shifts, bang, bang, and there they go, looking poised to win this race. But of course, not over yet. And Holtis of Georgetown trailing, not far off the lead at all. And then you also see boat 9 there. That's Cornell. Cornell staying in the fight, in the mix, but they're out a little bit toward the left. So we'll see if that current does become a factor for them. So these boats continue to work, and you see left shift, bang, over they go again, tacking back, and they're all too happy to dig back into the right there as long as they have pressure. Go right, get out of the current, and get to that mark.
Can get pretty difficult, right? So, but the nice thing about it is you are seeing new leaders emerging in some of these races, right? So we're talking about Tulane's Ciara winning this, currently leading this race, right? She's an incredibly talented sailor, right? So we saw her really holding the team together last year and the year before at the Annapolis Nationals. That's when they had finished second, I believe, second or third. And so Ciara has been a really strong player on that team. And I think, give credit where it's due. She's been with that team since before they became a varsity team. She helped grow that team. She was one of those statement players that I think will be remembered for a very, very long time by the Tulane team, because she's really been there since the start with Charles, and Charles has done a phenomenal job really growing and expanding that program.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that program has really, really done some great things over the last year here, and they look poised to jump up in the standings with this really, really great race from Rodriguez here. As Cornell in boat 9 has had trouble coming back here toward the right side of the race course with that current. I think they're going to get passed by at least one or two boats here, and that's in A division. So in A division, looks like you have Tulane still in first, Georgetown second, and third. It gets a little more of a spread. It's possible that it's boat 6, St. Mary's, making a bit of a push. Cornell's up there, and boat 12 is Penn. They're also making a push, and B division has started.
Yeah,
look at that,
incredible. So it looks like our day is starting to wind down. We've got tents being put away, teams getting ready for the on shore, and I will say this. Mesa's doing a pretty good job here today. Piper Holtis, first team woman skippers of all Mesa, right? So is Bridget Green from Cornell, also first team all Mesa, right? And worth noting, Bridget Green from Cornell, she was Mesa Woman Sailor of the Year, I believe. So and they've had prior alumna also coaching there. So last year, I believe that they had a different Holtis coaching at Cornell. So sounds like they've got a pretty good thing going on there, and I think the shifty stuff is definitely one of their strengths because they're sailing up on a lake up there, and so lakes are really, really tricky to sail on because it's not like you'll have a sea breeze coming in and something consistent. Lakes are very unpredictable oftentimes. Same thing with rivers. Rivers and lakes. Something about when you throw fresh water into the mix, you're gonna have a little doozy. But it looks like in this A division race, wow, this boat has quite the lead here. There's nothing like it. There's winning race in A division, right? And then there's winning a race with a big lead, right? If I'm not mistaken, I think that's our Tulane boat, Ciara, with that lead. Wow. And I'll tell you what, the nice thing is that that's our last race of the day.
You get to hit the dock early, hit the showers, right?
Oh, man. I'll tell you what, all you want to do is just drop the boat off to teammates and be like, I am tired.
You're done. So Tulane's going to win this race.
Right.
That's pretty much a given. Looks like Georgetown will be second.
You'll take it. You're I'll take it.
We'll take it. We'll accept that. And then there'll be a close heat here between second and third there with Cornell and St. Mary's going after it right there. As now you see B Division coming back up and using a similar strategy to, I think, what they were seeing was successful with A Division. 15 and 11 coming to the right side of the race course. 15, Larkamp, Stanford tacking. Probably going to have to force 11 to tack there, and there they go. 11 over, tacking, and Larkamp says, I'll roll you right now. And she looks like she rolls him.
She's got speed.
Yeah, good
She's
speed.
got
And
speed.
that's what we were talking about before. You see that boat, 15, much flatter than 11.
Right.
That's going to be a factor as the pressure comes up a little bit.
You want to, and you can see the pressure kind of coming down, and it's so crucial to just start pre-hiking, right? Just be ready as you can be, because if you get that little bit of, once the puff hits that, that little bounce with the boat, little bounce of leeward heel, that can be so slow. I mean, you can slide easily a boat length in ladder runs, like easily. So 15 is staying relatively
15
flat
might win
there.
this beat. They might be first at the mark again here. 10 is going to be a little bit of trouble. Coast Guard, they've handled themselves fairly well later in the day. They're making a push here. That's boat 10 and 15 really dueling unless we see another shift. It's going to be one of them, and it really looks like 15 is poised to do it. And I have to say 11 there. 11, that's Georgetown. Trying to follow up with Holtus's second place. They're holding on, but I think they're a little bit light, Gloria. In my opinion, I see how they're handling the boat. It looks like a little bit of a light crew in there in this bigger pressure, not expecting it at the end of the day. It's in. It's gone right. It's breezier, and lighter teams struggling.
Right, and the nice thing is we're watching as A Division is finishing up, coming back to the docks. Their day is done, right? Ciara looks like she really grabbed the win there. I'll tell you what, that's a nice way to end the day.
Oh,
right?
yes.
People say it's nice to start the day with a win. You know what's even better? Ending a long day with a win. And with that lead,
it's great.
That's a good way to feel good, right? Like, even after you've had a few bad races throughout the day, at least you finish with a win,
I'll tell you, Larkamp's going to be feeling pretty good as well here, because she is winning this race in B Division, and she's looking poised to win it again. As you see the boats coming through the mark. Really close. This is the national championship, folks. Bow to stern, bow to stern, bow to stern. Even in the breezier conditions. Typically, breezier condition, the boats spread out a little bit. Nope, not at the nationals, ladies and gentlemen. It is tight, tight, tight. Right down to the wire, right down to the very last race of the day. And you can see the boats coming through. Even those boats that are set a little bit further back, race is not over. You can make a move on the downwind.
Right. Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. I mean, the crazy thing is all the adjustments you got to be making. Minor adjustments, right? It's so easy to just so in your head in the race. You're forgetting to put Vang on before the puff, right? You're forgetting to take Vang off once the puff disappears, right? And it lightens up. The same thing when you're rounding the marks, right? You Vang off, right? Board up. It's so easy to get in your head, and those little things, if you can remember all those little things, it'll make such a tremendous difference on your race, right? And so it looks like they rounded the top mark in just within basically 6 minutes, if not less. This is going to be great timing for this race. And I'll tell you what, the Larkamps are putting the gap in for Stanford. So, going into day 2, they're making their job a little bit easier, or a lot of bit easier, quite honestly, because to have such a big score gap, I mean, that makes all the difference.
Absolutely. And I think the race just a little bit shorter than maybe they would have liked. The breezes come up. There's nothing you can really do to predict that. It wasn't, I don't know if it was forecasted to do this, but here we are. It's come up. And actually, Georgetown fared fairly well there. They're pushing third place.
Pretty close.
Pushing third place.
And they're closing that gap.
Yeah, so Stanford first, Coast Guard second, Georgetown third, and at the gate mark, Navy in fourth. Navy looking to climb in the standings. Not a great day for them, but here they go. Fourth position. This will be a good race if they can hold it. And boat 9, in fifth. Cornell simultaneously rounding opposite gate mark as boat 5. Boston College. Boston College, obviously the reigning champs, looking to put out as good of a performance as they can to close out their day as the boats go back upwind for a second time. A nice view of the gate rounding there as boats try to come in wide in and tight out.
Yeah, and something you were talking about earlier, which is when you're one of those top boats, you don't want to take a major risk. If you're in the back, you can take a bigger risk, right? So if I'm one of the guys, let's say I'm in back of the pack, I absolutely would take the risk of rounding the gate that is less crowded, right? And just kind of sail my own race, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not trying to interact with anybody. I'm trying to have a clear lane, and just focus on my speed and just catching up, right? And so that's where you'll see these guys taking the other gate, right? And, you've got 14 and 16 out to the left. They're trying something new.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, you know what? I got nothing to lose. I'm going to try something new, and I'm going to see if this pays off for me. Worst comes to worst, I just keep the guys that went out with me under my boom, right? And let's see what happens.
And that's right. You just try to roll the dice a little bit when you need to try to gain some points here. But I think the play is definitely what we are seeing from boats 15 and 10 on this shift. It's a little bit more one track with the current. They're able to round the mark, come out toward us, toward the seawall here, take one tack, and they're almost laying the mark on one tack. People always say you don't want to bang the corner, but in my opinion, if you can make it work in one tack, sailing least distance and getting the favorable current, don't tack.
Yeah.
You don't need to. It's slow. It's better to be sailing straight, get the beat done the proper way, and that's what 15 and 10 and some of these other boats are doing. Is we have a nice wide angle here. The boat's going upwind for the last time of the day. They'll go downwind and finish this race. And it's a spread out one. Stanford's going to win it probably. And boat 10, Coast Guard, they've fared very well in the breezier conditions, haven't they?
I'll tell you what, it is nice watching 15 sail right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the nice thing is maybe we're not on the boat, but you sure can see from shore and even from the cameras, you can watch how the boats glide through the water.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a non-sailor and you're watching this, my best piece of advice is kind of watch how much these boats are bouncing up and down, right? And kind of watch how the sailors look and just take a look at each other's speed compared to one another, right? And just kind of watch how 15's boat has just been gliding through the water. They look like, what is it? I had a good one. Like skating on ice,
Just a knife through butter. Hot knife through butter.
Nice.
Right? And that's the goal. Because you have a blade under the water, folks. You don't want a lot of turbulence on that. You want to pop that thing right through the water and get upwind, get around that mark, keep the boat nice and flat. And that's what the leaders are doing here. A nice gain here by Navy. Looks like they've come into third position, and there you see Coast Guard flying down the reach. They're looking poised to finish the day with second. They jibe. I like that maneuver.
All right.
Jibe, and like Sophia was saying, folks, just a little bit ago, point at the finish line. Jibe, bang, right to the finish. Call it a day when you can. And it's a dead heat between two rival boats. They are 11 and 1, our Navy and Georgetown, two rivals, and then we have 9 coming in. Cornell along with 7. 7 is Brown. 7 is Brown and Cornell, two Ivy League rivals, mostly known for their hockey rivalry. But here we are on the water.
Well, there you go, right? They're basically skating on the water, right?
There you
like
go.
butter, like butter. So
there you are. It's in a tight pack. There's Cornell rounding, and then we have Boston College coming through, and they jibe. So a lot of jibing here as the boats come through the downwind. And good breeze. We're lucky to have this to finish out the day like this. Yale a little further back than they would hope to, is to try to keep pace with Stanford. That's not going to get the job done there. A little bit off the pace.
And even Harvard was a little bit further back than what I was expecting. I mean, these are the teams that earlier on in the day we were like, wow, look, they're leading these races, right? And that'll just show you. There we got 6 St. Mary's. St. Mary's is having a little bit of a hard time at my alma mater. So, but they've got a young team. They've got a young team. That's what I'm saying. So that they're here in the finals, and every nationals is you learn. The best sailors take the wins. They take the losses. They learn from it. They move forward.
Moving right on. And you saw 13 there, folks. That was MIT. They needed to do a penalty turn, and that'll set you back. And that's just proof. As we move through these days, folks, you see how a penalty turn like that's 18th place, race over. I've been here on these waters, same thing happened. Penalty turn, last place. So you have to be accurate. Can't have any sort of bad plays. And we're getting a nice shot downwind. The Dartmouth going downwind there along with MIT. Boats 13 and 2, looking to close out the day here as best as they can. So those boats just working downwind.
Right, and I like the technique Gray Ermans has from Dartmouth here. She's locking her tiller down, right? She's doing the panhandle. Hot take on the downwind.
I know. Listen, people say not to do that, but if that helps you lock that thing down and use the body weight,
right?
You don't want to be moving that tiller around a lot because it throws a lot of turbulence in the water and just slows you down. So whatever works, whatever you got to do to finish strong here, get it done. Get it done. Get in the finish, and get ready for tomorrow here as we see the boats coming through here. Boat 1 will take 3rd. Boat 1, that's Navy, will take 3rd. Georgetown 4, of course. Stanford won the race. Coast Guard was 2nd. Brown will be 5th. And followed by Cornell will be 6th.
That's good.
And
race
BC,
for
well,
Brown.
actually, BC may have just snuck in there between Cornell. It's a little bit hard for us to see here.
Yeah, but that's a good race for Brown. I think they needed to end the day with that.
Yeah.
It seems like after today, looking at their standings, like we were saying, it's good even if you have a rough day to end the day with a good race, right? And so it's Brown's doing having a little bit of a hard time figuring out the venue right now, and I think that it's going to be good for them to end the day with this note.
Yeah. No, like you're saying, Gloria, the end of the day is a big part. It sets your mind up. It sets you. There's nothing worse than coming in and going, oh man, that was terrible end of the day. It just leaves you so dejected.
Oh,
it's terrible. We've all been there.
Tell me about it. Listen, I'm not going to say it was a routine for me, but that's why we called it Seahawks Sundays, okay? Because Saturdays were tough. But yeah, you'll hear. Actually, I was talking to somebody else today, and they were like, "Yeah, it's our Sundays." I was like, "Wait, so did we all just pick Sundays as comeback days?" It's like we can't all have it.
That's right.
That's a real thing. It's like you sleep on it, and some people are going to come back the next day well-rested, new mindset, new body. They've done their stretching, their yoga, whatever you got to do, right? And then some people are just going to be defeated, right? And they're going to come in with the wrong mentality.
Oh, yeah.
And they might have an even worse day than the day before, right? Yeah. Or some people might even put too much pressure on themselves, and then they crumble. They crumble the next day, right? We've seen it happen before where people will lose their lead. They will lose their lead. Now, looking for tomorrow, Stanford's got a pretty big lead, so it would take some major mistakes, like big mistakes, to lose this lead. But right now,
well, we don't want to jinx anything from the booth for them. We'll let the action play out on the water.
No bananas on boats.
No, none of that.
Jinxing in the booth.
No, none of that. And you can see, guys, the boats coming in, just as we're talking about this sort of mental state. It's like, on those boats right now that you were just seeing sailing in, all racing done for the day. The course has been picked up. Some of those crews, crew and skipper might be a little silent in that boat right now. Not a lot of words being exchanged. That's not a great sign, but hey, that's life. That is what it is. And other teams, maybe they're talking, laughing, joking, and getting ready. So that it's all different. Every boat has a story, folks. Every boat has a story.
Get into it.
Yeah, every boat has a story, and we can't even begin to understand what each of those are, but we can only think and guess.
That's for sure. And you know what? I can't believe we've gone the whole day without mentioning it, but I feel like we've stayed so warm, right? And you've been rocking this killer vest, right?
Yeah,
with this
gear.
incredible logo. Like, we gotta talk about this incredible custom logo design that Coral Reef put together for KP for this event. I mean, here it is, right? We're talking
Got it right here too.
everything you need. Here we go. Boom, 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 right? Everything that embodies New York and KP, and I just think it is so brilliant. And, you know, you've got the boats and everything, and it's so beautiful, and it looks great. I mean, look at this vest, folks. That is good stuff. And so Coral Reef has done so much, and they do such an incredible job with their logo designs, and then they even have their online stores with all Regatta branded stuff. And like this, I mean, they put together this logo and so on. I mean, you saw the store. They have everything, right?
Check it out, folks. It's not every day you can get a sailing and New York City and a Statue of Liberty all in one place, and ICSA. So check it out.
Yeah.
I recommend it for sure.
I'm talking they've got T-shirts, sweatshirts, tech tees, you name it, and it's their backpack. You know, anything. You name it, and they've got it. So, you know, they looks great, Spence. Looks great.
So there are the boats coming to the dock here, end of the day. They're going to de-rig. They're going to send their alternates down there. They're going to hopefully get the yachties that were in the boats to get undressed, to take a breather, send the alternates down there, pull the sails down, roll them up, tie the boats down, pack them in that basin there, and we'll use all the whole fleet again tomorrow. Race officer still out there just pulling anchor, ready to head for the dock, and that's a wrap. That is what we've got for action today, but we still have some analysis here.
Yeah, we have some analysis, and you guys don't go anywhere just yet. We actually have interviews with the sailors.
Yes.
So we've got somebody that's going to be walking around the docks, and we want to hear from some of the top players how their day went. And I'll be honest, I want to hear about some people's days that were tough. Right, so we're gonna have some interviews. So don't go anywhere just yet, guys. We've got plenty of information still coming for you, and you know, this is that big thing that we were talking about, like getting in their heads. Not getting in their heads like that, but you know, we want insider information. You know, it's not typical that, you know, you look at other sports and they're talking to the athletes right after, like, how did your game, you know. Look at basketball, you know, they're like, hey, you guys lost this game by 50 points. How do you feel? Right? So I want to hear all about what's going on in the sailors' minds. I want to hear about how their days went. It's so easy to, you know, maybe some people won't even want to. Some people, like you were saying, people won't buy it, right? But it's important. I think that there's a good thing to you know, kind of stay a little quiet and process your emotions, but also it's just to get that such strong emotion of silence that can sometimes
we're gonna send it over here down to the dock for a live interview with the Regatta leaders, Stanford University. Sophia, take it away.
Hey, so I'm here with Vanessa, Stanford. Had a pretty dominant day on the water. First college nationals, sailing alongside her sister, and honestly one of the best college sailing programs in the country. Vanessa, you want to walk us through what worked today?
I think definitely having a really good start and just playing the shifts and the puffs really helped. I think the start was definitely the key. It's good racing out there. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, when you have a good start, things tend to work well. Any good moments out there, either with your sister, your crew, or just being your first college nationals in general? Things that have been highlights?
I think I sailed with 2 people today, and it's amazing just like switching on and off, and it's so easy and nice. And I think my team makes it really easy just to like focus. They're always so helpful, and I can just worry about racing, and they take care of everything else, which is so nice.
That's great to hear. It's easier to sail, honestly, when your team feels like family, and sounds like you have that. So good job today. Stoked to see you sail again tomorrow, and good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, Vanessa Larkamp there winning Division Bravo by 30 points. 31 points put up today. Second place, Harvard, with a mix of people, was 61.
Wow.
So nearly half the amount of points. That's unbelievable. And that is really one of the main reasons why Stanford is winning this championship by almost 30 points as well.
Jeez.
We expected them to be here, but by this much.
Yeah, I know. And we saw how tight the racing was, folks, right? We saw it's neck and neck every race. So imagine the consistency she has to just get that amount of points. 10 races, and that's how many points she's put on. So that is incredibly impressive. And you want to know what I loved so much about that interview? Her positive attitude. I loved it. Smile on her face, and obviously it's easy to smile after such a strong day, but she just seems so positive. She seems like she's got the mentality part of sailing. To be that consistent at her very first college sailing nationals, that's a whole different mental game than we've seen before.
That's 100%, and a very consistent score line, winning 5 races, all races in the top 5 except one, and still only a 10th place, which is still a decent finish here at the National. So a very, very consistent score line, helping Stanford to be nearly 30 points ahead of Yale. We expected Yale here. We expected Stanford in the vicinity. We didn't know exactly who would be where, but Stanford, saying, okay, you want the team race? Well, we're here to fleet race. We're here, and we're going to do it well. And Boston College, not far off the lead either. They're still in the mix, trying to defend.
Right.
Third position, impressive work by them. A little bit off pace, but they're there.
And you know what? I think, in terms of BC, we didn't see any of their women skippers on the first team all NISA. And you know what? Maybe this is their comeback of the season. They had a little bit of a slower women's season, right? They were falling a little bit behind. I think this is them coming back like, I don't know, we never left. We're still here. And we're going to fight for this.
The Nationals is the time to establish yourself, to really declare that you are here, you are present, that you can deal with the difficult, stressful situations and whatevers. And that's where these teams will rise up. Cornell also sailed well today. We weren't sure how they were going to fare in interconference play. Right. They've played very well in Mesa. They've really done very well along with Georgetown, but mainly Cornell has risen above. And they've asserted themselves. We're here. 4th position after day 1. Not far off. Bowdoin, sort of a dark horse. 5th position coming out of NISA.
Right.
So, folks, we have here some of what we've expected and some surprises, which is the beauty of it.
Right, and we're going to send it back over to Sophia. She's got Michelle Larkamp.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so Michelle Larkamp, A division for Stanford. Sophia, tell us how it is.
All right. I think they're going to... Yeah, I'm back. I got one sister, and now I got the other. So, yeah, here with Michelle, 2020 College Women's Sailor of the Year, and her crew, Ellie, a freshman. First college sailing nationals, so that's huge. You want to walk me through what worked for you today on the race course?
Sure. Yeah, I can talk a little about the beginning. Our boat speed through the chop was really good. We made sure that our tension was nice and loose and really put the bow down when we could. And then once the day went on, our focus was really just catch as many boats as we could if we were in the back. There were a couple of mark roundings we weren't that great, but we ended up being able to really capitalize on every boat counts and getting leverage when we could, but consolidating back as well, which was really great.
And Ellie, as a crew, what were you focusing on out there? Big picture stuff, communication, anything in particular?
Yeah, definitely just playing the jib through the chop, to stay powered up, and just trying to connect the dots, telling Michelle where the pressure is, trying to get there.
Were you in and out of the boat a lot today? Because it seemed like it was pretty up and down, so you guys were probably having constant comms about who's doing what, right?
Yeah, it was really up and down, full hike in the puffs, but then all the way in the boat in the lulls, so.
And then last question for you, Michelle. Being your last college nationals, is it like you're living every moment, or does it just feel the same?
So luckily I'll be here next year, hopefully. But yeah, no, I think it's really surreal. I remember competing against you last year, and time does really go by really quickly.
Oh, yeah.
And
For
the
sure.
women's fleet, I mean, I still know all of the sailors, which is really fun. It's more of a friendship rather than like a friendly competition. But yeah, it is surreal being home because I'm from Rye, New York. So I've been growing up on the Long Island Sound, so it's really nice to be here for my senior year.
A local in her home waters. I don't know if that's allowed. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so good luck to you guys tomorrow, and hope to see you at the top again. Really good sailing so far.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Amazing, Sophia. Thank you so much. And Michelle, wow, those two sisters, I'm telling you, mental aptitude, immaculate. I mean, I'm watching them in the interviews, and they've got what it takes. You can just tell, you know, when you're doing interviews and you're hearing somebody talk about their day after the water, after a long day on the water, you can tell what some of the best athletes are, right? And those two sisters, just watching them in those interviews, right, just hearing them talk about their day, that's why I think they're leading after today.
And I agree with you, and that's it. You have to keep your mentals in it, and that's the difference, folks. As you go in and look at these score lines, you'll see that the difference between Stanford and Yale and BC after are some of those 16 versus 13, 13 versus 10. Those couple of points here and there, it adds up. 3 here. And when you have the ability, like Michelle was saying, to pass boats, to pick off boats from behind, that sets you up with a chance to win the College Sailing Women's National Championship.
Exactly that.
We'll be back tomorrow with that for you.
Yep.
It's been just a great day. Of course, the breeze is still great now.
I know, right?
So
Let's
we're
go
just
sailing, Spence.
So lucky. And you guys can see just a great place that we are. Thank you all for joining us.
Yep. Stay tuned for tomorrow's broadcast. Like we said, you know, let's see if Stanford can hold their place tomorrow. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. We're happy to be here, and we can't wait to be here again tomorrow. Have a great night.